Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. Joining me, as he always does, is Duncan Torrance Shields, the esports historian. Pressing the buttons is Sam Bain Lord Davis. We're doing one of these so quick after the last one.
I've got a mad question for you. It's also a totally irrelevant and shit question. So, in keeping with the theme of the show,
pretty much up to par. Yeah.
One thing I've never understood, Sam. Maybe you can answer this for me. Is why is your name Davis? Like, I'm not joking. You know that guy who was like fucking Jonathan, whatever his name was, with the like quiggly hair. You know the guy,
the rugby player.
No, the one who was like fucking. What's his name? I can't remember, that detective, Jonathan something or other. You know the one with like the wrinkly, crinkly hair, and he used to just go around
the one who's on fucking QI.
Yes, there you go.
Alan Davis.
Creek.
Oh, yeah, Alan Davis. Yeah.
I saw your name. I just thought it was Davies. Why is it Davis?
Well, I'm Welsh, and we just break those rules. For some reason in Wales, Davis is spelt with an E, and everywhere else in the world they call me Davies, but in Wales it's Davis. I don't know.
So I've just been saying it wrong my whole life.
Well, no,
not really. You're saying it correct for 99.9% of the world.
England, would that just be Davies?
Yeah. I do get called Davies in England as well. Yeah.
It's complicated because the Seisneg, the English bastards, oppressing us, trying to make us not talk proper. So
I do appreciate, by the way. Obviously, I don't, because listen, without the world scoring, like, this clip alone, could just be fucking wrecked in 10 years. I do appreciate that of all the countries, Wales actually doesn't even have any avenue for independence. Like, what even is that?
Oh, mate, they're pushing it, mate. They're pushing it.
And they're going for it. Y'all are just like, well, whatever. Got an assembly. So what's that?
I mean, to be fair, there is a hardcore enclave. Like, I remember when Plaid Cymru kind of, really shot back into prominence. And, people were trying to push Welsh independence, but fortunately...
They're still pushing it now, mate, harder than ever. I'm telling you, you should check out the Welsh... Mate, they took a poll and shit. People are on for it.
Wouldn't it be an insanely small country? How could you survive? Wouldn't you just be done immediately? You'd have no infrastructure, wouldn't you?
I don't know the actual story about it, but people pretend like, we have great exports. I'm like, what, mate? Lamb and wool. Like, what else have we got? Anyone else need coal? Anyone want to use coal?
Wool and those coal stockpiles.
And some steel that nobody wants to buy because it's more expensive than Chinese steel.
It turns out all the steel mills are fucking closed, so I don't know who's selling steel.
Nah, there's still some of them. Port Talbot's one's running.
Yeah, the Port Talbot one's running. No one goes, who wants to build, have any business ties?
People do buy them, but I don't know what the score is. Apparently, like, they like to say, we do it better, so it costs more money. But obviously, if you're building a fucking 40 buildings, you're going to go, well, I'll save 10 mil if I buy it from there. Obviously, I'm going to buy that.
I will say this, like, strong mackerel sales.
Mackerel season, mate. If you want 40 mackerel,
cool. That's going to be one of the fish I've
if you want a carrier bag full of mackerel for a tenner right now you're landed, like, trust me. The good times. But yeah, basically Wales is a mess. Like, independence would be an absolute nightmare. I mean, like, a lot of people laughed at the idea of Scottish independence. Yeah. There's actually like a very
sure there's some business angle.
They got loads of oil, mate.
Yeah, there's loads of argument. Wales has none of that. Like, just absolutely none of that.
I think we've got some limestone.
Our primary exports were coal, limestone, steel, but then the Chinese wrecked us, and inbreeding. So, one of them is still going strong as far as I can tell.
Obviously, in terms of the Scots, it might actually help them because, like, obviously people from Glasgow can't speak English anyway. We all know that. So,
yeah,
they may as well go back to Gaelic or whatever it is, like, fucking hell.
Anyway, I'm glad we got that out the way at the start of the show.
A little bit political.
Yeah, well, as political as we're allowed to get. So our sponsors for the show, .com, they love the Welsh, obviously. So sponsoring me and Sam, as they have done for so long. In fact, that's probably the reason the Wales economy hasn't collapsed. So shout out .com, go to .com/RLS or beep with 9es.com if you are watching this on YouTube. And our other sponsor, of course, now, NordVPN. If you want a VPN, I recommend you get one. It's just one of the best in the business, and with the discount you get from being from me being an affiliate, you get 70% off. So go to nordvpn.com/RLS or do !NordVPN in the chat to find out more. Follow that link, sign up. It's cheaper than a Twitch sub, which, by the way, I did notice for some reason Twitch was saying if you sub now, you're supporting K-pop. Thanks, Twitch. You've absolutely fucking wrecked me. You absolutely wrecked me. I'll have to say it. Well, no, just everyone's channel at the moment. I don't even know what's going on there.
I don't want to support K-pop.
No, obviously not.
Not support K-pop.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's just wrecked everyone's business. That has. It literally popped up today on my own channel as well as I'm coming on to do a show. Hey, why not support K-pop? No, I won't. K-pop should be in that fucking, what's it called? The DSM-5, the Handbook for Mental Illness.
Yes.
Like, obviously, if you're from Korea, it's your pop music. If you're not and you idolize and fetishize it, your box is gone.
Which it does feel like, by the way, nowadays. It does feel like people just go and open literally that manual, the DSM, flick through it and just go, right, that's going on my bio. It's like,
yeah.
What is the world come to? In the past, you didn't want to be considered mentally ill. It was actually a stigma.
Obviously, this isn't a topic of conversation we'll continue with.
No.
But I will just say I've even warmed up to furries because they're so uniquely insane.
I didn't take a drink there. That would be fucking ridiculous.
No, but I'm just saying, like, compared to K-pop stands, you know what? There always was that when the revolution came, furries were very high up on my list. But now K-pop fans being on Twitter all the time and just seeing how they hijack hashtags and like someone dies and everyone's going, "Oh, rest in peace," and then underneath it's like, "Should have stand Luna." Like, fuck you, fuck all of you K-pop fans. Fuck you to the ends of time. So I don't support Twitch supporting K-pop, and you don't have to support me if supporting me inadvertently makes you support K-pop. I'll take the month hit for my principles, but you can sign up to NordVPN for cheaper, and I'll get a massive paycheck, a massive bonus. So just saying. Right. Anyway, let's get into the show. As you can probably tell already, what we've done is by doing two shows so close together, we've gone absolutely ham sandwich in the last show we did on the weekend. And now it turns out there's fuck all to talk about except a small series of events and transfers that aren't very interesting. But hopefully,
don't tell it too much.
No, in fact, this will probably be the worst episode of all time. But we'll try. To
be fair, do we have viewer questions? Because those ones, to be fair, like the problem with our viewers is they're always just like, what would you think?
Trying to get me banned off Twitch. Yeah.
Could you make a 15-man roster spanning every year of Counter-Strike that would play another roster? And which, like, they're always like, they are like 45-minute answer questions. So maybe we'll just go ham on those.
Yeah. Like, according to quantum theory, let's.
And also, hopefully, this time Sam's actually fucking vetted those questions because I saw like 2 or 3 in a row where I was like, what is he even going to do against these?
I didn't realize I put him on a teleprompter. I thought, he does scan them. To be fair, it's not like he just reads about like, what would you do?
You get halfway into one where
that's the problem, isn't it? Because I've never seen him, so I'm just reading them out and going, does Richard think that George Soros, right, can't do that? It's like, you're fucking straight wrecking me all the time. And the thing is as well, these are all the patrons, these are the people that give money. So now it's got to like this like mad edging thing, hasn't it? Where it's like, we love you, love the show. We pay to bring it back from the dead. But what if we just ended it? Like, yeah, exactly. Like, calm down. Like, let's just keep that where it belongs, on the fringes of the internet and not on the biggest podcast about Counter-Strike. Now, let's do the worst episode of the biggest podcast of Counter-Strike. I want to draw some attention to something because obviously we talked a lot about the coaching bans and we did I think it was 2 episodes ago, we talked about the profound impact it might have on the landscape if people don't take their medicine. And that there's a lot of organizations right now that are trying to challenge ESIC, challenge their authority. Some are even just saying, look, yeah, they cheated, but we're just going to let them keep their jobs. They'll be back, and what this means. But what got lost in that noise, and I think we did touch on it briefly, was we talked about LMBT, the Forza coach, and how he was appealing the ban. Now, it was very confusing to me because there's video footage of the bug being abused by someone and the camera moving around.
But he claims he was somewhere else at the time or something.
Yes.
Right? Like he wasn't, like he was actually, didn't he say he was like on an analyst desk or something mental? Like, I can't
remember
something like that.
Yeah, he said for one of the maps, at least, he was accused of. He was on the fucking analyst desk. So, I mean...
Sounds like the beginning of a fucking Sherlock episode or something.
Oh, yeah. Totally, right? But somebody was definitely moving the mouse and following players and stuff on some of the footage. So who the fuck knows what's going on there? Like, maybe he's like Dr. Manhattan himself and he can just be in 2 places at once. Who fucking knows with a big blue knob? Like, I don't know. But anyway, it turns out that the ESIC have lifted his ban. And there haven't been too many details released on what basis it is, but he's been completely unbanned. He's straight back into, being a coach for Forza. And there wasn't sort of any statement beyond LMBT's own statement where he said, I'm pretty happy and satisfied with the outcome. It was very hard for me in Forza when the news of the ban came out, but we knew our position and that our evidence was very strong, so we were pretty confident. This situation with the bans and the appeals has set a precedent, and everyone has to learn from this. I'm thankful to ESIC for conducting a correct investigation and coming to a good decision. I can't wait to get back on our team speak during matches. Now, I'll just add, obviously, a lot nicer things to say about ESIC now that the ban has been overturned. The original Forza statement's not so kind. But I did want to highlight it because I think it's important that, people don't forget that there are appeals, and there might be some people that are going to have their bans overturned, and LMBT is the first of them.
That's why I would say, even though I understand, sadly, this year, particularly in esports, people have gone so stupid with the notion, as put forwards and echoed recently by four-time major winner Glaive, that unless you explicitly deny something, you obviously did it, which is definitely not a standard I would want to ever have in any kind of like a legal system, not even just when judging people in public. So I would just say, I know why, in light of the fact that when the names are listed, fans are going to mob you instantly. I get why people like Robban, etc., came out and were like, I don't know why it's done, but it's like, listen, mate, that that isn't the end of it. Like, if you had a legit way to show that you didn't do it, there's methods to do this. Like, it's not like the case is over. So I do think that's, put it this way, I think some people have publicly tried to be like, I don't really agree, but I don't think they've got a fucking case and they're not going to even bother trying to appeal it.
Yeah, well, it was like, some couldn't even be asked. Like, Starix's defense, I don't even remember. Was that me? Like,
isn't it?
It's like unbelievable. Was that me? Was that me on camera? Was that me doing it? Yeah, well, I can't remember, can I? Like,
lol.
Yeah, lol.
It's on that level, wasn't it?
Like, c'est la vie. Yeah, and of course, and then Hard Legion, who I've underlined multiple times. I did an interview recently with Pronogo. If you don't, I know you've done one with him as well, but in case people missed it, go check his stuff out. But I did like a 90-minute interview talking specifically about the bans, and it's like, at the end of the day, like, I probably shouldn't do this. It's probably like a little bit unprofessional, but I'm just gonna say, like, fuck Hard Legion. I don't buy any of their shit. I don't buy any of their shit. I don't buy
innit? Come on, what's the odds?
They've had 3 coaches basically all caught out. They've had Starix who was just brought in as coach.
Didn't even fire him.
Yeah, and then they've just said, yeah, we're sticking with him actually. And like, they were some of the worst abusers. And if you go and look at the game, some of the rotations those players are doing and running around, I don't know, mate. That seems rotten as fuck, that entire team. So I'm not ever gonna, I personally think if there's a way that you can just sort of, without saying why you're doing it, push those guys to the outside and maybe don't invite them to tournaments and stuff. Just definitely do that.
It's like you said about the last episode of the Killerfish examples, the classic one. The whole point is, listen, we'll never be able to get the evidence to prove those people cheated. But when it's so egregious how shady the potential match fixing, maybe cheating, at that point, like Richard says, you actually do have a mechanism if you're a tournament organizer. These teams are never going to be the top 5 in the world. So just don't fucking invite them. Just find a reason in your mind as to why you invite another team of the equally, like, not that great level and just bring a team that hasn't caused trouble, basically. Because unfortunately, these 2 organizations in the examples we're giving, it's not one offense. It's like perpetual that they keep doing this shit. So, like, you need to send a message to those orgs, like, clean it up if you want to be in this fucking scene.
Yeah, and exactly. And that's what I mean. It's like on a managerial level, essentially, at that point. You are signing off on systemic corruption through your team. You're saying it's okay for a coach to abuse a bug and not fire them. You're saying that maybe it's okay for players to fucking win matches purely on, and, winning matches against the likes of Na'Vi, by the way, guys.
Yes.
In world qualifiers and other tournaments and stuff. It's like, come on, man.
Exactly.
Enough's enough.
Who the fuck do you guys think you are that you're just going to cheat for years and get away with it? Who are you, the fucking New England Patriots?
Not bad. Good one. By the way, you see my man Brady came up big against fucking Rodgers again.
It's pretty good.
The record continues, mate. I knew. I had faith in the Bucs all along.
It's not over yet. We'll see who's in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it won't be Rodgers, mate. So it won't be Brady either. No, exactly. Yeah, like, fair enough. But neither of the cunt.
To be fair, this will actually be a shit one, mate. This is like the year that some garbage, like the fucking just one of the teams that you don't even care about, like fucking Josh Allen or something being the Super Bowl. Who even cares, right? 2020 is just a write-off in it. Like, who cares? Everything in 2020 have an asterisk.
No, that's what I mean. It's not even just like esports. It's like just every aspect of your life is garbage in 2020. Like, there's just no way. It's just so stupid. And look, the other thing I'll add as well is because I did see some people, like especially in the CIS region, because there was let's say a localization of some of, you know, like obviously in Brazil there's been you know, sort of no culpability whatsoever, which you know, fair enough. But in the CIS region there was like an active.
I know. Listen, it's not. No point swimming upstream on that one anymore, is there? Like, I know.
But in the CIS region,
because we as Brazilian, yeah, apparently,
it is. Yeah,
seems to be a very strong correlation. Yeah. So.
But in the CIS region, there was a lot of hostility being aimed towards ESIC. And saying, you know, maybe people shouldn't follow them. Sam, have you got that? Do you remember that twit longer from those guys?
About me, yeah.
Yeah, no, but like, but the one before it, where they were like, because I've just got to read it. It's so funny.
I'll get it.
Thanks. But anyway, so I'm about to do a comedy, right? A comedy read. But just on a serious note, I'll say that this is how these governing bodies essentially should function. You get your evidence, you come in, you're still laughing.
No, because am I right in preemptively guessing that the reason it's going to be a comedy read is you're going to do a stupid Scouse accent or something?
No, it isn't written by Yimmy. It
wasn't written by Yimmy. No.
You're just going to go for like, hey, why you fucking...
And look what they've done to my man Virgil.
Exactly. What's happened there?
As I said, it's one of the Ogs going after Yimmy. So
I got booted out the call there a sec, but I'm back now.
All right, but I'm back now, back in the game. So anyway, no, just to let you know, it's a serious point to make in this already stupid episode. You know, this is how a governing body should function, right? A governing body has to...
Smiling below the tweet is just fucking crazy. You know, this one of like the crying, laughing emoji going like into infinity. Like, what even is that?
I don't know.
Why is the internet so fucked?
I don't know, but everything, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, this is how a governing body should function. You know, you issue your punishments, and if you're happy with them, you have an appeals process. And this is why I've said get on board with ESIC, because think about Valve. You know, Valve, the developers themselves. Well, there is no structure to their punishments. There is no appeals process. It's that if you get a VAC ban, maybe if you're of enough reputation, they'll conduct an investigation, but maybe not. Not always a guarantee, even if you're a top player. And you know, things like that. And you just have to eat the punishment of never being able to play at a major forever. You know, guys like Dreamer, guys like Jampy. That's completely wrong. That's actually amoral. You know,
agreed.
Immoral, I should say. You know, that you can issue a punishment without the person you're punishing being even allowed to see how you've arrived at the conclusion, see the evidence, or even have them present their own side. I think any punishment of that nature has to have an appeals process, and I think ESIC have done an excellent job by having that brought in.
Mate, they even let, if people don't know, I mean, people will obviously, like, even people who are on like death row with like multiple murders and like all the evidence is there, they're even allowed to appeal, because the whole premise is you have to let people, if they claim they're innocent, make their case. Now, it might be nonsense. You might shoot it just straight down and go, fuck off, Starix, you're wrong or whatever. Like, but they have to be allowed to do it. I agree.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, there was a group called Team Excellency. Right, and Team Excellency are from Bulgaria, and of course you'll remember before we bastardized it, the original "Does This Happens Because We Are From" was Bulgaria. It was in reference to the thing I was talking about with Dreamer and his VAC ban, but we just made it a Brazilian thing because we're arseholes. Anyway, Team Excellency put out this tweet long. I'll just read it to you. We are writing to ESIC to inform them that we will fill up a complaint to the European Commission, the European Council, and the European Court of Justice about the coach bug situation. First of all, who are the ESIC?
Ooh, I like this angle. Keep going,
it's good. It's good. They were established 2016. By who? This information all publicly available on the website.
They're trying to make it like sinister, like they're uncovering some mad conspiracy. Like, has anyone ever asked who they are? Well, we actually know it's like Ian Smith. No, but who is it? Well, we just told you, like, who though? It's like, you can't just keep saying that if you've got any evidence.
Yeah, but look, by the main organisers of big tournaments, members of gambling organisations, or members of big esports organizations. Does seem to me, by the way, if you wanted to have a governing body that sort of regulated corruption in
Those would be the
esports,
people.
yeah, those would be. That's not a bad cross section there. But anyway, how can gambling sites and organizations be members? It asks. Well, because obviously they need to share information about illegal betting, for example.
The irony is, this is just someone who has no information whatsoever. Trying to pose like, I put it to the public. How would they? It's like, well, I could actually answer. No one could answer. No one knows who they are. It's like, we do.
Right.
We know all these things.
And then it goes, supporter of unofficial commission, which will affect their operations. This is a conflict of interests. Love it. I love how we've popularized this phrase. It's everywhere, Duncan.
Now we're going to get triggered by people like, mate,
Misusing it.
That's the downside. Yeah. Initially, everyone for the first 3 months was like, there's no such thing. It isn't one. Then I saw people, by the way, trying to argue stuff like, but Monty, isn't the fact that you now work for Cloud9 and your wife used to, but not at the same time, that's a conflict of interest? No, that's just a coincidence, actually. Like, that isn't in any way a conflict of interest.
A conflict of coincidence.
What even is this?
Yeah. Nobody is regulating this commission, neither the European Union or the USA government.
Reasonable, yeah.
What's this fucking ain't?
Listen, I know people complain a lot about the EU and, like, the US government, like, overreaching their bounds. But even they haven't gone, excuse me, are you deciding how long people get banned for a coaching bug? Get in the air, give me a break.
Save us, Donald. Save us in esports.
Trump handle that coaching bug. It's a bloody disgrace.
Yeah, I know he's going to come out and go.
See the scene he made in 2020. If you want that out, vote on November, whatever the fuck it is.
I've seen the movement towards Valorant, and this is what the Democrats are doing. Like, that's what we need. Definitely bring that to the table. Right. ESIC decides to hit upon a bug which was reported firstly to be used a couple of years ago, and now in the ESEA mid-season, this commission decides to hit upon 37 coaches. Not sure that is what happened. Most of them coaching small organizations and teams. With this, the ESIC are leaving a lot of organizations without coaches, breaking their path to top level of CS. Another question, those were statements.
Yeah, because your coach cheated.
I know.
You're the one's fucking your path to the top, not the ESIC.
No, it's the ESIC, mate, is doing it right. Another question is that some coaches are trying to prove themselves self-innocent. How is the ESIC supporting the coaches fighting for their career by giving them an appeals process, as we've just alluded to with LMPT?
Reduced bans, sorry, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, even said if you admit to it, we'll give you reduced sentencing, Unless ESIC has unconditional proof that coaches use the bug, they should take off ban until they prove it. Obviously, all that video evidence.
The irony is, it's rare in cheating cases. You can never literally just watch from the person's POV and go, that definitely cheated. You're just looking at him and he's spinning around like a cunt.
All that video.
They're trying to use that logic, right? That, by the way, fittingly, and I think this was one of the Dreamer angles. This is literally what a lot of cheaters try to do, isn't it? They literally use the classic one of like, it was my younger brother. He came like, because the logic is you can't know who was on that PC. It's like, so I've just banned that PC and that account, so problem solved. Yeah. No, but you can't know it was me. We know someone's cheating.
Dog ate my homework level shit. Hang on, right. They are supporting the people who confess their crime, but not to support the people who try to prove they are wrong.
Is there something about twitlongers that they're sort of like an IQ test that if you choose to do one, you've automatically failed? Like, because it's like, here's the irony. For people like me and you, Richard, we get in trouble because when we do tweets, there's not enough characters to give in all the disclaimers. All the,
True.
These people need to be limited to 140 characters. Like, giving them just a whole page just shows what absolute cretins they are.
We will inform the European Commission, the European Union.
To the top every time, aren't they? It's unreal.
And the European Court of Justice. This organization should be approved by them, and this is not the case for sure. This organization should be at least recognized by Valve Corporation, but it isn't. Recent statements from Valve says they would wait to see what ESIC's findings were. And they have had multiple meetings with Valve. So in the end, how can ESIC be the rightful commission to put their sanction on scene when there is an obvious conflict of interest. And then this is the beauty of it, the last line. Excellency will not give up fighting for the truth and fair play on behalf of all CSGO players and fans. So there you go, guys. Excellency have got your back. God bless them. They're fighting to the bitter end. But it's what I mean. I think, unfortunately, one of the things that did happen was there was a lot of ill feeling towards ESIC, thinking they didn't have the mandate to do this. Understand as well, it only applies to leagues that have signed up and agreed to abide by ESIC's rulings on these matters. The kind of, you're not getting a VAC ban for abusing the coach bug. And you'll even notice, remember how Valve said they were going to get back to us about what they were going to do? Wah, wah. Still waiting, of course. Oh, but don't worry, we've made the demo UI less shit.
By the way, which all in itself is mad suspicious, isn't it? It's like they know how bad. Like everyone was like, "Wow, Jesus, you went through that many demos. You are like a fucking actual saint. That UI is fucking shit." Valve was like, "Get it fixed. That thing that we said we'd do like 10 years ago." No, I'll even say this. Think of the internal logic of the post. It makes no sense. If their basic premise, which they tried to allude to with that shit series of questions, which were all answerable by anyone who's watched this show, when they said all that stuff, right, what they're implying is ESIC is this like nebulous body and who appointed them and who really runs them and who are they? And maybe, as they tried to imply in quite a shit fashion, maybe it's just a conspiracy of the big TOs and the big teams keeping down the underdog teams. Well, here's the logic, right? The last thing I'd want if it was all corrupt is Valve to go ahead and put their fucking stamp on them and say, I'm going to give VAC bans to all those people, you daft cunt. The best thing ever would be that only these TOs that work with ESIC are the ones who agree to uphold it, in which case, if it was really corrupt, all you teams that are innocent, apparently, could go potentially to another league. The great thing about CS, surely, is it's an open market. Like, that would actually be a way around it. You're actually arguing for essentially like more legislation, which if you know anything about governments tends to not favor everyone in the scenario. Like it fucks some people, it helps others. So I think they've actually argued the opposite case there, bizarrely.
Yeah. So we'll do a real story now. We'll put them where they belong. Contact with a 0 in their name. They've been having a bit of a roster shake-up, and obviously I know this is relevant to your interests because they are competing in the Flashpoint League, which starts early next month. And it's a crazy one because while Emmy leaving, I think...
Right, it was on the wall there.
Yeah, totally. Smooya has again parted ways just before his opportunity to play in a tournament. That's
going to be telling. I will say, I don't have any. By the way, even though they're a Flashpoint team, this is not actually one where I have any inside influence. But I have to say, just for speculation, fucking hell, there's a lot we could go on here. Because what is going on? Like, I assumed, by the way, when they did one of those Flashpoint Q&As that we did, we had on some of the people from Contact. Like, we had on the Neil M, the coach, etc. And he explicitly said that, like, Smoothie's on trial, but that's for both parties, to see how it goes and all the rest of it. But, like, the assumption was you're going to play, and if it works out, you're going to play Flashpoint 2, I thought. I thought that was the whole point of the deal.
Yeah. Well, so... really strange. It's like I just don't know what's going on with Smooya at this point because he just put a tweet out saying myself and Contact CS have parted ways. It simply comes down to my role within the team and the long-term plans they have. I've had super fun and eye-opening time with them, which I can only thank Neil M, the coach, for giving me the chance. Thank you very much for the support. Loved up emoji. Now I just don't understand. It's like, how many times is this going to happen in this dude's career where it's like, I just don't, does he not realize where he is career-wise? Like, I'm afraid, like, you're not going to get the top, you're not going to get it all your way anymore. Your stock is like, well, we thought at an all-time low. Yes. It just keeps going. It just keeps bottoming out. It just keeps getting worse. Like, this was a really good opportunity for you to go to a league with all due respect. Let's say a diminished field, a lot of people who were building teams, you could have gone in there and shown everyone you're still Smooya, you're still capable of banging people out on the server and playing with a bunch of misfits and making it work somehow. And once again, just before a sizable tournament comes rolling around, you go AWOL. You don't want to go and compete because it's not perfect, so I'm not going to bother. It's like, this guy has just pissed away his entire career. Yes. I don't see... If you can't make it work at Contact, how can you ever make it work at a top 20 team in the world? It's ridiculous at this point. It's like
when
a
he
parody.
says, by the way, the roles aspect, that was something that actually I think it was Neil M brought up on that Flashpoint Q&A, where he said something like, "Oh, because obviously that Oton guy, the Finnish guy, is like a primary AWP, and basically that's the only weapon he can really use." I think the logic was they were making Smooya be like the secondary AWP / a rifle, and if you know Smooya's career in big, that's a trigger point for him. He thinks he should be the only AWP. Now listen, I won't argue with him on that one. If I had to pick it up, I'd pick him over the Otto guy. But that's that guy's team. And by all accounts, the Otto guy is like one of those guys who doesn't cause any trouble. Is just a sound teammate. It's like, mate, you're not going to walk in on a trial into another man's team and just go kick him out the team. By the way, I might be gone a month because I tend to just be a dickhead every few months and just blow up and shit. Like they're not good. This is one area where, funny, all the advice I could give to Smooya now is like, it's like, you know, that saying that like all good advice you give is basically advice you were giving to yourself, because it's stuff you've learned about your life. It's like advice I'd give to myself as a young man. It's like, mate, it doesn't matter how talented you are, how good you even are at something. If you can't be basic things like reliable, easy to work with, factors like these, not too high maintenance, people won't want to be around you. Like there'll be a few people who'll take a crack on you, and that's probably because they're down on their luck. Like they have to gamble on you. Like like all the teams that think about bringing Antonio Brown back after the million stupid things he's done, because obviously he's mad skilled. But the point is, if you bring him back, you might just blow up one game in. So at that point, you're not going to get the big offers. And the reason why I bring up that example as well, is because he reminds me of, first of all, top pros who take a few years off and try to do the comeback. And then, like, because within 3 months they don't get a top offer, they're like, "No, fuck it, I'm leaving." It's like, you're not going to get one within 3 months, mate. Like, you have to pay your dues again. So I feel like that's the problem for Smooya. He seems to think, right, well, I was here when I quit or when I left, so I'm going to get a team like that. It's like, mate, you have to start over again. You have to work your way up again. You can't think you're just going to come in right at the top again. Not least because it'll make your attitude just not the one that teams want.
Yeah, and like, but it's just so strange. Like, I honestly thought this might be a team that it could work for him.
The perfect team for him, mate. As far as some of those are his mates.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. He knows some of these guys from like FPL and stuff like that. So you're like, listen, and honestly as well, just to say it, like Contact are a team that they do sort of like book the trend in a lot of ways. Like they think highly of themselves. They seem to be a little bit, you know, antagonistic to a certain degree of like established pros and people with like, you know, they've got their own ideas. They got some big egos and attitudes, and that's fine. You know, they've certainly upset people in the past with like lineups that probably shouldn't have gone deep at tournaments and made it to finals and dream hacks and stuff like this. And they've done that. Now, Smooya coming in, if you put it this way, any org that picks up Smooya and gets Smooya as he was playing for Big when they had their run at Cologne, that's a bargain. Like that's not only a bargain, that is like something you could probably slot into a top 10 team and see an improvement. There's like, he was like in unreal form, but ever since he chose inexplicably to fuck himself out of competing at a major, it's like his brain never got the message about why that was a really bad thing. His brain never kind of like caught up to the reality that like you've not only dropped yourself from an upcoming team at a time when you were an upcoming player in career best form, potentially playing on the world stage for the like, you know, first time I think it was then. He threw so much away, and it's like you have to have a good reason to make these decisions. Well, here you are now dropping out of Contact before Flashpoint. This is so insanely stupid. I think at this point, by the way, I'm getting to the stage where I'm waiting for him to either do a Valorant announcement.
He's already started doing all those tweets. I know that he's playing Valorant. Like,
yeah,
I think he's doing that by accident, by the way, guys. If he doesn't have a team now.
Yeah, I think we're either getting to the stage that he's going to do the big Valorant. Hey, guys, I just realized Valorant's amazing now. All window of opportunity has been closed on me in Counter-Strike. That tweet. Or actually, he's going to become a streamer for someone, and you can have all of his outrageous, screeching, abusive nonsense, you know, under your organizational umbrella. Or he might even just go independent because, you know, at some point, you're going to have to start paying, you know, getting some money as well, right? Like you got to put food on the table. So, but I just don't like. I know we said it before, and then it was Tiger, and then it was Contact. But like, come on,
at this point, exactly.
Yeah, these are bottom of the barrel teams you're walking away from.
Like, here's the big problem I have with this move. I've made this point in the past, so it's going to sound harsh, Right, listen, Smooya has improved, not just from my own personal experiences with and around him, but based on other people and commentary in the community.
Yeah.
And also, you notice when he leaves teams, it's not quite as bad, and he doesn't leave with so many scandals. He just leaves in weird fashion now. But with that said, he was such an absolute shit of a human being that, like, just improving doesn't mean he's awesome. So I will just say, wasn't it earlier this year he had that stupid scandal where he basically told like Refresh to kill himself or whatever? Not the company, who definitely as a company, just the company should kill itself. But I mean, obviously I'm talking about the player from Denmark who just actually
he did. He was on an FPL stream and he said like he should kill himself for not rotating or not playing hard enough or something. It was like it was really outrageous, and it was at a time as well in Refresh's life where obviously he had a lot of stress. He just lost the team, was like looking at Cloud9, and like Refresh, like the player was being like super nice. This is the Danish dude, in case people haven't, he's been having a few career problems himself, but like he was being nice. He wasn't even being antagonistic, and Owen just went like unbelievably far because I don't think he knew he was being streamed. But it was like that was really bad. This is the stuff the community forgets. They blow this up on the front page of Reddit.
Don't forget that shit, though. That's the point I was going to make.
Exactly,
like, if I'm an org, I'm like, mate, that was this year. You better not put a foot wrong the rest of this year if you want me to pick you up, because I have to believe that's an outlier. So I will say this. First of all, it looks like whatever chance he got in this team, he's basically spit his dummy out because he can't be the all-pro. I'm just speculating there, but I'm trying to figure out a reason. And then secondly, I will say it, and this is damning in itself. I really thought, because the official story was the only reason he had to leave Flashpoint was because he had to go back to Europe, and there's a whole like lockdown situation, right? And then there was no point keeping him in the team because who knew if he'd ever be able to come back? So he couldn't stay in Chaos. So what I really expected genuinely was for people like Steel to kind of like commiserate and be like, oh, I lost one of my best players. Like that was the guy I needed to win. Steel didn't seem to give a fuck. Like Steel got a much worse opera and was basically implying, like, I'm sort of glad Smoothie has gone, like, and acting as though there was some like friction between them and the team. So it's like, mate, how many teams in a row is this going to be before like the classic thing of like, maybe have a look at you in the mirror, have a look at who it is that's causing these? Because maybe I will say this, to be fair, it's a point I've made in the past for other players labeled as toxic. When you have that label, don't get me wrong, it's like being Dennis Rodman in the NBA. You do one tiny thing wrong, the ref's going to hit you with a tee. And it might not even be justified because that's your rep. You now can't get away with that. You've done it too much. So unfortunately, even teammates in your team, if they just don't get along with you, they'll spin it that you were the toxic one, but they might provoke you or be passive aggressive. But unfortunately, that is now the game you're playing. That is just like the stakes that come with what you've done. And I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but as we pointed out here, what else? Where else is there to go at this point in time? Like, I'm afraid. I agree with you. I feel like it's Valorant, especially when you look, mate. Feels like half a European Valorant from the brief glance I've looked is bloody UKCS players, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to a large extent. I mean, yeah, and we have no idea how well like Valorant's going to take in Europe. So and my understanding is like I don't know what was going on with his visa when he was in Chaos, but it's not a given he could like just go into an NA team. Which, by the way, no. I've looked at some of the standard of players moving over to Valorant right now. Smooth, you could easily like be a dominant force on one of those teams, like, no doubt about it.
I'm not joking. People have put like genuinely arguing for like Wardell as like esports player of the year. If Wardell can be esports player of the year, maybe fucking Smoothie could just dominate that game. He's like the faker of that game or something.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, just a shame really that his career in CS at least just keeps kind of like, plummeting and hitting new lows that you just didn't really think it would be possible to sink to. So I don't know, shame, but he made his bed. I guess he's got a lie in it. Now we'll move on to the next story here. Let me see. We had this interesting back and forth with the CSPPA recently. So I wanted to bring this to the table. There was a couple of stories related to the CSPPA, a couple of quick hits, I suppose, that they needed to get some more positive attention, I suppose. And the first was that they were talking about the tournament schedule changes. So this was earlier in the month, almost 2 weeks ago now at this point. But they basically said that they felt that the ESL schedule that I think we highlighted before had a few issues, and they wanted to also work on improving player conditions. They wanted to give their insight into format and how things could be done to reduce player burnout. And basically ESL and CSPPA came to an agreement about certain changes that ESL would make on their circuit. So I'll just read you some of these changes. First off, they adjusted the starting time of matches, which
It's almost a meme in it at this point in time. How's this real?
they adjusted the starting time of matches, principally with the agreement that matches cannot end after midnight, and teams competing in semi-finals and finals must be given a minimum of 3 days rest before playing their first match in a tournament afterwards. So in other words, if a team makes it to the final of an ESL circuit event, and then you have an event like next week, and it would have started with with less than a 3-day gap, you can't make the finalist play on day one of the tournament. That was an agreement. So I think that's...
By the way, even though that on the surface is an abstract concept, totally reasonable,
Yeah,
my joke would obviously be that ESL's like, yeah, we agree with all this. Now, will everyone else stop fucking putting your tournaments one day after ours? Like, that's what I'm worried about with this scenario. Like, it's all well and good ESL going, right, now that we've taken the whole calendar, you know what? We can give a little back to the community. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Doesn't 3 days seem a bit long to you? That feels really long to me.
like 1 or 2.
No, I think a 3-day rest between playing one tournament, potentially traveling to another tournament. You don't know where
traveling.
it's going.
I'm thinking of online.
online.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought
I'm
the same
thinking of
thing.
online.
Nobody could be online. It would have the changes would also apply to online, but it is with the idea that we're going, because you can't just say, if it's online, the rules don't apply. So they're going to be universally applied whether it's online or not.
Right, okay.
But these were made with the view that lands.
Fair.
Yeah, but the irony behind that, Richard, is you never used to have tournaments that started the day after when it was offline anyway, because at least of the travel and the media days.
Yeah,
so
true.
who's the person who created that problem? Spoiler, you're talking to them, ESL. They were the ones who did that. They just said, well, there's no more media and travel days, so let's just bang all the tournaments back to back to back. Like, if anything, if people don't get it, by the way, it's not just that ESL did that to have more tournament days. They do it as a way to devalue other people's projects, because what they want is you to see the big banger ESL 1 Cologne event and then go, what's this other shit tournament afterwards? I'm already a bit burned out on CS, so I don't care about theirs. So, the problem with that is you are sort of playing to what ESL wants. With that said, though, like I say, in abstract, who can argue against it? Obviously, sounds like a sensible move.
Yeah, totally. There was some other changes here. Sorry, I'm just going down the list. They also agreed to implement a series of technical measures to avoid delays during LAN tournaments, which include installing, and this is the quote, certain programs on player PCs.
The jokes write themselves, don't they?
Yeah.
Why are you always taking half an hour to warm up for, sure?
Vac sucks on fucking standby with this, including installing certain programs on player PCs that will serve as a backup option in case there are any technical issues. They also say large groups featuring a round-robin format will not be used moving forward, with the exception of the ESL Pro League, in which the number of teams in each group will be limited from 8, which should be from 6 to 8, not 8 to 6, but from 6 to 8. The impact of this change is very limited, however, as the majority of tournaments hosted by the two organisers, that's ESL and DreamHack, use a double elimination format in the group.
It's pretty just ESL Pro League as far as I can tell. I'm not even sure what the point of that statement was. I guess they just don't want more people doing it.
Yeah, I think it's not to add more, to the list. So there you go. Those are the kind of major changes they agreed upon. So there's another point to this I'll get into, talking about LAN safety protocol. So we'll come to that in a second. But just first of all, your initial thoughts, because I know we bang on CSPPA quite a bit on this show.
This doesn't seem like an appropriate time to do it.
No, I think actually this is, at least this is the kind of thing they should be doing.
Yes. Agreed.
Not some of these other nonsense fights they've got in, not where their silence has been completely deafening when they don't want to talk about conflict, interest, and other issues, not giving fucking players agency advice and contract advice based on competitor intelligence that a separate branch of their business has obtained. They shouldn't be doing those things. This is exactly what they should be doing. Holding tournament organizers accountable for having environments and structures that work towards the betterment of a working environment for pro players.
Right. Well, as of October 20th, I can now say the first positive thing about CSPPA. So first and foremost, and this might seem actually a minor point to people because it's like a key distinction to make, just the very fact that they can get someone like ESL to go on record and essentially agree that there are problems in these areas, That's a win. That's what I want advocates for players to do. That is how you do it. Because even if, by the way, they're not obliged to change, but as soon as they admit it, they're sort of halfway there. Because as you see with the Astralises of the world and the other liars, the fact that they won't even admit what they're doing means no change will come. Same with Riot Games classically, where they have to they just retcon all of history when they change something, pretend they never did anything otherwise, So the very fact that they get so the biggest tournament organizer in Counter-Strike to essentially say, yeah, there must be an issue here, otherwise why would we be changing it? That's pretty big. That is a positive sign for the community. And as you pointed out there, that is one of the things I think that CSPPA could do more of that could really help this community. Even if you can't get someone, you can't really leverage them to do it, just having the conversations publicly, just pushing them on certain things, at least getting them, as I say, sometimes even if in this case, they did actually change things, but even if you just get them to actually have the conversation and start to acknowledge something has to be done here, you're pushing it forwards and you're keeping that conversation in the public consciousness.
Yeah, totally. Agree with that. Now, the other thing they had talks about, because ESL are saying, we are going to get back to LAN. In fact, the deck that they sent out to prospective partner sponsors, people who were working the events and stuff, that got leaked, which is how we all knew about the, let's say, egregious calendar ahead of time. They were making a very big song and dance about how we are going to get back to LAN, because LAN is what we do. It's what makes the Counter-Strike scene resonate. So with this in mind, the CSPPA wanted to ensure that there was some safety protocols in place, particularly as it relates to the pandemic that's ongoing at the moment. And interestingly enough, the CSPPA have said that they expect the protocols to include regulation regarding travel testing policies, interaction with staff, media, and fans, as well as other general safety measures. So the upshot of this is that what they're looking for isn't like what you see in the NBA with with a bubble or anything like that, but more like what we've seen with the UFC on Fight Island, where, for example, people don't get into an event without having been tested, and maybe there's one round of tests at the start, so we know in that hermetically sealed environment where there won't be a crowd, but there will at least be LAN competition. Everyone's, we all know everyone's clean, that there's going to be minimum interactions with the media, that masks are going to be required to be worn during interviews, that social distancing is going to be adhered to. And again, I'll just say it, I think this is it's very intelligent and necessary to codify all of this stuff, because if we accept, and I know some people from my YouTube comments have said that I'm what they call a COVIDian, that I've been fooled by the man, the big machine, and it's the plandemic, the scamdemic. Richard, why don't I've seen people accuse me of that. I just think if there's a disease that can kill you, even if it's low chance, just do what we can to minimize the spread of that disease.
Let me just take devil's advocate for a second.
Oh God.
No, I mean, actually, people will be surprised in favor of the position you're talking about. Actually, the fact that this is somewhat reasonable. It is not up to ESL or CSPPA to make medical diagnoses of the world and prescribe standards and practices. So as a result, imagine, let's say for some reason they agreed with the guy in the YouTube comments. You think their sponsors are going to be happy that they do it just freewheel? You think, and by the way, even though it wouldn't necessarily have a correlation, it goes without saying, if they did things without doing this and then one person even got a positive test, the PR is a fucking nightmare and you'd rather not have run the event. So if you want to have a LAN, I'm not saying anything either way on any of those topics. I'm just saying this is not the time for ESL to take a massive stand like that. It's not even something they should be thinking about, quite frankly. Whether you think it's nonsense or not, it's just a scenario where they, as a company, they're not in a position to do anything like that.
Well, I'll pick your brains here as well, because about how difficult it is to implement this. Because even though I know there were some people that were critical of Flashpoint running a studio show for the time that you guys did, which was at the March, I think it was, when the start of the pandemic was kind of when the scale and scope of the pandemic really started coming home. to roost, and people.
I believe the
saw what they were
lockdown
doing.
was like basically, I think it was the first week of Flashpoint actually.
Yeah, it
happening.
literally happened. Yeah, exactly. Just as Flashpoint started up. But you guys did implement a bunch of safety protocols and had a pretty rigorous approach to things, which apparently, from my understanding, Flashpoint executives, Flashpoint management, they went and spoke to TV networks about what protocols they were using for TV shows to keep going ahead. So what does that sort of look like?
Yeah, this is one area where, again, I knew that this whole topic, I actually knew back in March it had been politicized. Because if people don't know, in California, those like governor orders or whatever the fuck it was that they put out as to what you had to do, explicitly said, by the way, that like media companies were not considered as like people who had to do some of these things, as in definitely not have any business going. Because the logic went, I mean, I will admit, just as a person, I don't really know how this logic makes sense, but okay, it is what they mandated. They mandated the logic sort of went, well, if everyone's going to be trapped in their home, they've got to have something to watch on their screens, haven't they? Which is like, I mean, they don't have to, but I sort of see it, I guess. Like, I mean, I don't know if America's that far gone, but they can't live without TV. Maybe they can't, who knows? So maybe in that world, there's a logic to it, right? So
I got some bad news for you, Duncan.
So as a result, one of the first things that people like Mick from Face It did was they reached out basically, as you're saying, to like media networks, like news channels, people who were still running also with skeleton staffs and trying to figure out what are you doing? Like, how do you manage it? How do you stop people interacting with each other? And we basically applied the same standards. So it is a bit tricky. I will say we didn't have to do as extensive as they do now. Because, for example, back then you couldn't get tests, etc. Like
they weren't available. Yeah.
So you couldn't have done it back then. We just had to do the basic precautions, like minimum amount of people, except when you're on the couch, you're not that close with each other. Like, very minimal contact, a bunch of things like that. Obviously, no players in the studio. In fact, even for Flashpoint 2 that we're doing now, when we go there, I'm going to have all of us that come from countries that are on the list for the UK. I'm going to have to go there. So even though I come from the fucking UK, because I live in the Netherlands, I'm going to have to go there just like someone like Monty will from America. I'm going to have to be in an apartment for 2 weeks on my own. So good news is I'm just going to buy up loads of content. Fuck it. Joke's on you.
Yeah.
And then
jokes on you, my fans. Yeah.
Exactly. And then we have to do a test before we go into our bubble. Now we don't have players because that part couldn't be done. Basically, logistically, we couldn't get all the players there. Like as people saw, I saw Adam Apicella actually tweeted it the other day.
Yeah.
By the way, spoiler guys, why not just do an NBA bubble? Cost there like $18 million or something mental. Like I don't have the money for that, and also I don't have like a $1.2 billion TV contract I'm trying to rescue as much from by spending $18 million. So we had to make the play online, but for us to be there in the studio, which obviously is a better vibe than just being on fucking Zoom or Skype or whatever, in the world where we have to go to the studio, when we do the test, we have to obviously come up negative to enter the bubble at that point. And by the way, I'm not looking forward to this part. I'm going to have to stay inside that bubble thing for like a fucking month. I will not be able to leave. I won't be able to go get takeaway food or go see any of the people I know in London or see my family in the UK. I will just be in that bubble with fucking whatever, Monty and all the other talent just for one whole month. So it ain't easy to do, by the way. Like people who think these precautions, etc., are like just, it's easy, just do it. It's like, they're not always. But the point is, under these circumstances, the PR scandal alone is worth avoiding. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, I know people want to take these harsh stances, but that's because you're in a YouTube comment. That's because you have nothing to fucking lose doing this. Like, you're like the dickheads who, when I recently started doing like thumbnails and stuff for my YouTube, were like, he always said he didn't do that stuff. I meant like, yeah, I didn't put thought into it. Like, I didn't think it was a big deal. Like, I don't think it's like ethically wrong to do a thumbnail or something, guys. I just meant that I didn't think it was that big a deal. Like, I think people sometimes, have you noticed? It's a general observation that everyone will have noticed. Everyone has all the greatest fucking advice and things you should do when it's spending your money and it's you doing stuff and it's you setting things. Never themselves, you notice. It's always for fucking other people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's part of the human condition in general, right? Like, I mean, that's just what we are. We're all fucking wise to what everyone else should do. Meanwhile, our own lives are a fucking train wreck. That's just how it is. But I was interested because there was a big story, actually, nothing to do with CS. I guess in a way it's tangentially linked to it, but obviously Valve came under a bunch of criticism for not doing the international, and that is probably the one.
Crucially, the thing to mention is in the context that since they've pulled off Worlds and League of Legends,
Yes.
that's the issue, isn't it? Is like,
Yeah.
listen, as long as none of the majors happened in any of the games, there would be no complaints. Everyone would go, well, you can't do it. The problem is, cause Riot Games have not only pulled it off, they fucking nailed it with Worlds and in China of
amazing.
all places.
Yep.
If they can do that, I'm sorry, it made me think of that. You probably saw my tweet. First thing I thought was, why couldn't we have had this in CS? Like, couldn't you just switch to the major, or couldn't you? Like, I started thinking this. I've no doubt people in Dota are thinking the same thing, Richard. Like, I know. Listen, I know it's hindsight, and I don't claim to know where people were at a few months ago. But if Riot can really pull that off, and listen, Riot do have very deep pockets. I feel like some of the other games surely could have done something.
Yeah, well, look, so I would go this, like League of Legends and the International, the League of Legends Worlds and the International are probably the only two tournaments that have the scale, the scope, and backed by the kind of power players that could realistically do the NBA bubble style event that we're talking about. Got to be said, Worlds even went so far as to have a crowd for the later stages, and so far I haven't heard any reporting about any COVID outbreaks, and like so far, everything looks to have gone unbelievably peachy, right? And like you say,
of all the countries that reporting, I'm more skeptical.
No, I'd be skeptical, but equally as well, it's not just a Chinese event in that sense, right? You have the world's media in attendance.
If you wanted a scandal, you'd be incentivized to promote that if it had happened. Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, so there is that to consider, but this is where it gets really bad for Valve, because Valve. Obviously, so we're not having TI now. It's the first one that they've missed. It was obviously the most important as well. It was like the 10th anniversary and all that stuff. And like it's the biggest ever prize pool, right? Because once again, the Dota community have chipped in to make that number high, and bellyache the entire time, but still do it. Like they're like Valve don't treat our game with the respect it deserves. It's very easy. Vote with your fucking wallet, dickheads, and don't if that big number goes down, guess what? They'll be there real quick, right? But anyway. There was a report that came out just like 4 or 5 days ago that the Shanghai government actually went to Valve and said, listen, TI is so important, let's do a bubble style event. And they put forward a proposal, for the all the COVID safety measures they were put in place and everything else. And Valve knocked it back. They said they didn't want to do it. So there really is this lack of willingness, if you like, to sort of take the financial hit. And I think what we've seen with, football in England is that, listen, I know there have been a few athletes that have been caught with COVID, but so far, what people are generally saying is that's because of them not observing certain things outside of the game.
Same with the NBA. There was some people in the NBA where, there was a famous one where some guy just like snuck a fucking girl into the bubble. Which is like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, exactly. You can't blame the fucking NBA for that though, can you?
The worst has to be, I think, the Miami Marlins in Major League Baseball. They've had to fucking cancel like all of their early games because their entire team just has fucking coronavirus, like, because they just don't give a fuck, evidently. So, I can understand it from a fucking, point of view that nobody wants the negative PR hit, but like for someone as big as TI, you would have thought Valve would give enough of a fuck to maybe make it work.
Mate, especially because they have bungled the actual rest of the circuit so much the last few years. Even though the initial premise, I told you, it's why I'm always very careful about, about ever wanting game devs to step in and take over this shit. The premise of the Dota Pro circuit was brilliant. It was exactly what I wanted. Like, it's like Formula One, like one every spaced out, no stacking events, like make sure everyone gets a share of the event. But inevitably, the execution fucked it all up and people didn't like it. So in a world where, even though it's not totally true, the famous rep of Dota is it's just about bloody TI. No one gives a fuck about anything else.
Yeah.
Not a good look if you don't have it then, is it? Like, that just makes it a year. Like, that makes it the ultimate asterisk year, doesn't it? And I feel so bad, by the way, because that Team Secret team has just won every bloody fucking tournament. And then there isn't even a TI. Like, cheers, guys.
And this is the thing, when someone asked us on the last episode, doing missing rings, right, as like a concept for CS. Right now, if Team Secret go to TI, they just win it hands down. Yeah. And it's life-changing money and all of that spectacle, all of that allure.
Think about if you're Poppy winning another one after all those years.
Exactly,
mate. It's so huge.
Yeah, and it's not happening, mate. It's not happening. And like, imagine being this good at this time, knowing that you're going to be essentially denied that opportunity. Now, obviously, they might keep it going, but I think it's potentially unrealistic.
History says unlikely, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a fucking tragedy, and
Yes,
that's on Valve as well, unfortunately. So just another point, because I know we haven't talked a lot about COVID and coronavirus. It's a weird topic, man, because it's like
people just work out too far on it, don't they?
Yeah, I know.
Conversations.
It's one of those areas where it's like, people immediately go to the margins, don't they, on it? They immediately go to the fringe, and it's like, listen, like, people say, like, respect the science. It's like, it is something I'll say that's potentially controversial. People say respect the science, right? And that's like a mantra you repeat: respect the science, follow the science, listen to the science. The science changes every fucking day, mate. Like, do you remember on day one we were told you don't need masks? Now you have to wear them all the time, everywhere you go. We were told it could only live on surfaces for 2 days, so don't worry. Now the CDC says it's 28 days. I don't think there's anything wrong, by the way, with scientists like changing the view and updating it as we know more. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But the reality is that if we followed the protocols that we were told to follow back when it started, we've had the UK governments come out and said, eat out to help out. And now whenever a journalist goes, wasn't that a fucking terrible idea in retrospect? They always go, next question.
You'd love this. I can't remember if it was Netherlands or Belgium. I think it was Belgium, though, because obviously these two countries are super famous for eating fries with mayonnaise all the time, right? I can't remember which one it is. Think how irresponsible this is. The actual government, because all the potatoes were obviously like rotting in the fields and they had no supply chain, they were telling people like, have double the amount of fries while it's going on. It's like, mate, that doesn't even seem reasonable for like fucking health concerns of eating fries. You daft cunt. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not how it works. Like, do you guys actually care? So, no, the problem is this. I'll make it a little bit more refined. I agree with you, right? The issue is people just say that mantra. And listen, we know coming from the SJW world, that's just a mantra of idiots who themselves have never researched the science. They're just authoritarians who go, well, it must be. Like, it's not like that's a PhD saying that, by the way. Because as you say, the PhDs know they have been all over the fucking map all throughout the year.
Well,
the actual amount of
uncharted territory, isn't it? I mean, it's completely new virus.
In like February, March, April, where people who now say 180 the opposite were saying something back then. Yeah, and this is my issue. If they'd have been saying it back then, like, here's what I currently know, so take it for what it is. This is what we know for now, but it's a constantly evolving situation. That'd be one thing. But no, even back then, the fucking idiots in society who try to make every single thing like living vicariously through some fucking culture war were constantly using the same like vitriolic characterizations of like, if you wear the mask, you're a bloody idiot. You're like, and then suddenly this person a month later, wow, you want all my family to die because you're not. It's like, fucking hell, mate. That was you a month ago. What science did you read in the meantime? You didn't. You just saw the little box flashed up with more blinking. Oh, now my whole bit. They're like that meme. What the hell? Now I love masks. Like, they're ridiculous. Like, why are these people like that? So it's one of the reasons, if you notice, I made this point earlier this year. I've just never commented on that publicly.
No, and you shouldn't.
Fuck all about it. It's such a dangerous topic to even talk about.
You shouldn't. I mean, I put it this way. I remember one of the last podcast appearances I did outside of like our own, was with Austin, and I was just trying to explain why the rest of the world like is just laughing at America about how that has become a polarizing issue to the degree where you can almost certainly tell whether or not you're a Republican or Democrat by your viewpoint on masks. And it's like, imagine that being like, that's
pure tribalism.
No, exactly. It's completely insane. And I was like saying, like, go look at the rest of the world. Every time there's a seasonal flu in an Asian country, people mask up, glove up, wash their hands, hand sanitizer is put onto every like train, and people just shut the fuck up and go to work and get on with it.
I remember the ultimate thing people used to always make fun of Koreans when I lived in Korea. In fact, I even did a classic interview from 2014. Yeah. You might have seen it in the Sports videos, where I did it with LS. And he's wearing one of those fucking masks that we're all wearing now. Now, here's the irony. Everyone in the comments is treating him like a massive cunt. The logic of why he was wearing it, this is why I knew originally the whole point of the mask was to keep the sick person from spreading it, not the other way around. Every idiot who never looked into it said, are they that paranoid that everyone's got a cold? It's like, no, the premise then was if you had a cold and you went in your office, whether it was efficacious or not. The logic was you wore the mask out of courtesy to your other people's way of showing people, look, even though I'm coming in, because by the way, that's obviously the problem that we also had this year, is we also realise now what you should have known all along, which is it's all well and good having the logic like, you should stay home. It's like, mate, people who work jobs in fucking restaurants and do 40-hour work weeks, they just go in no matter what. They have to feed their kids, so they're going to go in if they have a fucking flu. Of course, that's the way life has been for the last 20 years. Spoiler, that's why you probably go into a restaurant and then you eat your soup and wonder why you get ill. Like, yeah, because that's just how life is. So in that kind of a scenario, in Korean culture and Asian culture, they're almost like hypochondriac the other way. Like the second they get anything like that, they go to the doctor, they get all the precautions. As you're saying, they go ham with it. So I don't even know that that's right, but I'm just saying it's funny how everyone who laughed at them, all it took was bloody like your political party telling you one way or the other for you to have a totally strong opinion on it yourself.
Yeah, and this is what I mean. It's like, you know, it's almost like it happens a little bit in Britain, but it's a like uniquely American level of ridiculousness. I mean, like, you know, I've said this many times, like where America is now in terms of its like widespread like insanity is like nothing I've ever seen before. But anyway, the reason I'm bringing all this up, right, like other than it being a shit filler episode, is that obviously Perfecto from Na'Vi tested positive for coronavirus, and
the follow-up scandal to that was so shit it was ridiculous. When it like, yeah,
that's where I'm headed. Mate. That's where I'm headed. But the first thing I want to say is obviously because just prior to that, Boomich thought he said, I think I might have COVID because he was showing cold and flu symptoms, but then he took the test and it came back negative. So first, obviously, just, you know, speedy recovery to Perfecto, wish him well, hope he does okay. But the madness that surrounded that news even getting out, right? Because the subreddit has like an auto deleter, like COVID, coronavirus, all of these are like trigger words that automatically delete it. Because, and I suppose in a way, maybe I can understand it. I don't approve of that, by the way, but I think I can sort of understand it because, like, some of the comments in this thread were fucking insane. And it just shows you how, like, people have lost their fucking marbles, mate. Like, this is what you do. Professional player has illness that, yes, statistically isn't likely to kill him, but could, you know, permanently affect his health for the foreseeable future. It is a big deal, no matter how much you want to point at the charts or whatever and go, well, look, but on average, yeah, but what if you're the outlier? That's the point. Like, on a human level, if you're the outlier, all the charts in the world don't make you feel better while you're lying on your fucking stomach with lungs full of fluid.
If people don't get it, even having the traditional seasonal flu would be a totally legitimate reason to say I have to take the game off. Like,
completely, absolutely.
You can die from that. Remember, people do.
I know it's so absurd where we're at with it right now.
It's probably the worst thing. I've just nailed it there, actually, Richard. That's probably the worst thing about this is people are acting like none of this ever existed in any context.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like just because we were all blithe to it doesn't mean it didn't.
Yep. So anyway, let's get into the drama. I mean, I just want to point out, like, if you want to see how ridiculous even trying to talk intelligently about coronavirus is, go read that thread. Perfecto test positive for coronavirus. Just go read it. Go read it and see the nutcases.
Was it people just like obviously ducking him, trying to get the day off or something?
Oh, I wish it was just about the game. It's immediately into government conspiracy.
Shit, right?
Yeah, straight in. People wanting to get in. You know, what a mad thing this is to say as well, going, well, I have heard that by being overweight is a comorbidity when it comes to this, and Boomich is fat. I hope he doesn't get it because he will die. Like, why are you typing that? Why are you typing that, you mad cunts? Like, what is, like, how diseased does your brain have to be to sit down and go, like, type that out and think that's like a reasonable statement? That happened multiple times in the thread, by the way. Like, it's a fucking mess is the only way to describe it. But anyway, as I've said, my stance is like, just wish him well. I'm sure he'll get a speedy recovery and everything will be okay. And, you know, hopefully Na'Vi can get back to competing with Perfecto in that lineup. But anyway, they were. Hang on. I haven't even got the right thread for the drama there. Sorry, I've clicked on it wrong. But basically, what happened was, as a result of Perfecto testing positive for coronavirus, they needed to cancel their game. It was against
Forza, wasn't it?
Yeah, Forza. That's right. So anyway, perfectly reasonable, you would think, right? But then what happened was, initially, one of the players came out and said on Twitter, this is a fucking disgrace. If it was anybody else, you know, everyone bends over backwards for Na'Vi. And
Which they do, but that's sort of irrelevant.
it's by the by. And then people were going, yeah, look what they did to Virtus Pro. Virtus Pro turned up 10 minutes late to a game that was scheduled because they were competing in another completely separate tournament, and they got Dr. Map, as if these two things are in any way the fucking same. And so immediately we have the conspiracy theory that, like, you know, it's preferential treatment for Na'Vi. So I'll stop there and let you interject. It's perfectly reasonable, right, that the Na'Vi Forza match gets rescheduled because a player tests positive for coronavirus, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Especially in the light of the fact that, like, I mean, we don't know. The problem with that whole scenario, again, that makes this so worthless is people just have this, like, binary thinking, like, I have or I don't have coronavirus. No, the question is, like, how bad is it? Like, how are you reacting to it? What are your symptoms? Like, has it affected you? Like, obviously, this will tie into later. Like, can you still do stuff like play CS? Like, are you even of sound mind? Do you have a fever? Do you have a temperature? Are your thoughts all confused? Like, I'd need to know, like, more details before I could make a judgment on whether someone was capable of playing the game that day. Because I saw people saying before that, like, the outlier case was apparently, like, North had to use, like, some standing instead of Kirby and, like, the RMR or something. But, like, again, on paper, yeah, that sounds interesting. But I'd have to look into the specific details. Context is always king.
And then, in what is the shittest gotcha
amazing,
I've ever
I
seen,
know.
it is the shittest gotcha I have ever seen.
It's basically one of those got him, but, like, not in any way though.
No, not in any way is anyone being got, right? So 2 hours after the match was cancelled and Forza chucked their dummy out the pram, Perfecto was apparently, like, just playing on a retake server. Or like playing playing CS, like, just on a retake server. And so Forza's manager took video footage of him doing it and then passed it on to ESL as if he was in some way violating the rules. Now, I'm just going to say, first of all, on the surface of it, so fucking what? You fucking pathetic cunt. But, like, just think about the logic. What? Because Perfecto was playing casual CS in his own time after a match has been cancelled.
It's not like he's playing a scrim, is it? Exactly.
Yeah. So what? That makes him medically fit to play a full competitive match, does it? But also this. What if he was just playing Among Us with friends? What if he was playing some shit hentai game on fucking Steam? Oh, look. Oh, sick. Like, what do you want him to do? Like, go into the fucking Michael Jackson bubble and having a fucking guy feeding him propofol through a fucking tube. Like, yeah. Like, what do you want, you mad cunt? I have never seen anything this fucking pathetic. Like,
basically, they want it where if Perfecto turns on his webcam, it's like that last fucking section in ET where all the fucking, like, government come in or whatever, and they're just, like, taking all the hazmat suits and that. Like,
yeah, it's a joke. What, like, the idea that this has been passed on to ESL, like, look, you must sanction Perfecto. Get a fucking grip of your shit life. Just get a grip of your life. Like, just because someone has coronavirus doesn't mean, like, they're immediately on fucking death's door and, like, can't do stuff. It can get that bad. Also, we don't even know how far into the illness he is. Is going to escalate. So what's he meant to do? Is he not meant to do anything in the meantime? Is he not allowed on his computer? Like, nope, he's sitting upright. Sorry, you must be bedridden. Like, you know what you want? Like, 24-hour fucking CCTV footage above his bed.
Also, I'll throw something in there, mate. Logically, the first thing you do is isolate yourself in your room. What are you going to do at that point in time?
Yep.
Maybe play some video games? Would seem logical.
You can only masturbate so much, which I know certain journalists are doing on Zoom calls these days. But
anecdotally, we've tested that. Not together, independently. I believe.
Glad you're stressing that. But anyway, so then Perfecto had to put a statement out. He had to put a statement out.
Come on,
while he's
longer.
No, but it's just well, I mean, it was just Twitter. It was just 2 tweets. Oh, okay. He said, right, because he said it was a few hours after the cancellation. He said a few hours, more like 5 and 6 after the expected start of the match, and I was there for 30 minutes maximum. I didn't train hard. Don't make me laugh. I wish that none of your loved ones were sick with it. It says the crown, but it means corona.
Yes,
obviously corona. Since this is very unpleasant. Update: to give all the best at an official match is one thing. To go to a retake server for 30 minutes and press buttons is another. And yes, I played the past few matches with a temperature, so the temperature didn't worsen in the 30 minutes I was playing. Just just on that day of the cancel match, my state of health became even worse.
By the way, this is obviously purely anecdotal. It's not in any way like true evidence or whatever. But
Yeah,
I will say, in the match before this, Na'Vi got 2-0 by Shitty Virtus Pro.
Yep.
Flashpoint 2 team, by the way, qualified. And then afterwards, they played Forza in the game today, got 2-0 by Forza. Another Flashpoint team, by the way. But like, these aren't teams that typically are supposed to be beating Na'Vi. It's definitely months ago. So I won't say that proves it. But listen, I could believe one or two members are maybe under the weather. It's not a ridiculous thing to speculate on, is it?
No, it's absurd. Like it is. Like I said, there were people messaging me before we did this by the numbers, going, "Oh, Richard, can't wait for you to go in on like ESL, and can't wait for you to go in on Navi and all the preferential treatment again." You don't fucking know me at all. Like at the end of the day, if you are sick with, like I say, forget coronavirus for a moment. If he said I've got the fucking flu and I can't play, right? If you're thinking he's getting preferential treatment for them just putting the game back for a medical dispensation, hang on though, wait. Aren't we the same community that was like up in arms when like, oh, look, Get Right's throwing up because of his stomach illness. How can they make him play? Nipper, a scummy hog. Look at Device with his illnesses. Oh, God, Astralis, a scummy hog. Like, but yeah, Perfecto just has to fucking, it's play all the gulag, is it?
If you remember, they wanted majors to violate the roster rule moves just to let people who were ill have play. That was like a universal consensus that should happen. So yeah, I agree that. And if anyone, listen, I know that haters, it's a waste of time arguing with haters. It's like that classic saying, I can't remember who it was, some like legendary fucking philosopher said that like trying to use reason to argue with people who don't use like logic is basically like trying to administer medicine to the dead. Like it's just a waste of your own time. But all you need to do is don't look at the broad strokes. Look at the particulars of this show. Many times, people that I despise have given fair due to. Like, remember when the whole MIBR thing was going on? I went out my way to point out that's actually an area where before Valve took action, one of the people they had fucked by not taking action was Nicola Nyholm, because he used to own multiple teams and only sold it because the notion was that you had to sell the teams and not own multiple teams. But then Valve bizarrely was letting other people have multiple teams in the same tournament. So in that scenario, it doesn't matter that Nicola Nyholm is an absolute shit of a human being. Like, he's not wrong in that case. Like, actually, he's been hard done by.
So the Reddit thread about, I saw in a thread about you the other day.
Dropped out again. I'm back. I don't know why Discord just keeps booting.
Did you miss anything?
No. I missed like 3 seconds.
Right,
okay. So we have all the finest minds of Reddit in this thread about the retake server gotcha. And as I said, there was a thread that deviated to being talking about you that had 600 comments, and I'm just collecting all the mental illness.
I don't read those ones anymore, Richard, but I can tell you. Thread about me, 600 comments. I'll tell you what my guess is, because you know this. It's the same MO for you. What will happen is someone probably had the audacity to point out that one thing I've ever done might have been sort of all right. And then some other person, this is usually the way it goes, will make the other classic mistake of going, why do people hate him anyway? And then that's all that the little cunts are waiting for. They're all waiting in the wings like, now's my time. And they come out with like, mate, some of them have like copy and pastes with like links and shit. Like,
oh yeah, there was plenty of that. I mean, like I think it was basically the classic Thorin bingo card. He is a man child. Tick that one off. Anyone who says man child, get fucked. Like your opinions immediately. Just worthless, isn't it? Like just worthless. Do you even know what a fuck? Like it's like, why is he a man child? Well, he displays certain qualities that I would consider to be maybe petulant or childish when he argues with me. We all argue with people. Yeah, like so if that is a childlike quality, it's one we never shed all through adulthood. So how is it a childish quality then, you silly cunts? Checkmate again on just basic logic, you fucking absolute bellends. But anyway, man-child was in there. Skip Bayless, of course. It was great.
My boy Skip, of course.
Yeah. It was a two. He is the Skip Bayless of CSGO. It was a tour de force, mate. It was a tour de force.
People don't know. They always think that's original to say, right? That is as bad as the guy right now going, if I don't like it, you're the bloody Donald Trump of whatever. It's like, that's classic, just as bad. That's as bad an instant crowbar.
Incredibly, I didn't see he is the Trump of CSGO this time. So that wasn't ticked off on the bingo card, but you can imagine. But anyway, we're not talking about you. We're talking about this, about Perfecto. I'll read you some of the comments, right? So, GK Games X said, this is bad news for Na'Vi. And you go, well, obviously, he's referring to Perfecto having coronavirus and he's showing sympathy. No, he means the gotcha, the absolute shit gotcha. Not sure what is going to happen punishment-wise, but it might get serious. No, mate. No, mate. It absolutely won't get serious. It absolutely will not get serious. It is the worst attempt at a gotcha I've ever seen in the history of esports. I'm sure ESL were laughing, but just had to give like some professional email to Forza going, we will take this into consideration. Like trying not to laugh as they're typing it. Next up, here we go. The party boy had a hangover, most likely. Of course,
reasonable.
Lots of bars open right now.
Listen, Richard, don't ever speculate about burnout, anything. That would be actually like immoral. But to just speculate that someone doesn't actually have coronavirus and was just partying, by the way, with zero evidence whatsoever. That seems just reasonable at this point in time, doesn't it? What a fucking train wreck.
Right. That was from Porky Tifu. 99. The Adro Dynamic quickly wanted to scramble and like create an alibi for something that's not even a crime. Is there any chance someone else was on his account or PC? Are they in a team house or are they at home? It's like, doesn't matter, mate. Like, none of this matters.
Fine,
Rat Rap 666. All jokes aside, I've lost all respect for Na'Vi. He's dropped. There it is. Lost all respect.
That's one of my favourite ones because it's a bit like the other classic hyperbole in esports is they disagree slightly with one opinion. Like you've ranked like number 9, the team they think should be number 8 of all time, and they go, he knows bloody nothing about the game. It's like. That seems that you've gone too far there, mate, with the hyperbole. I lost all respect for him. Like, your respect was worth nothing, wasn't it?
The account Lo-Fi Guy 7 tried to craft an analogy from his limited brain.
This imagination went.
It's really bad, Doug. It shows.
Be good. I can tell.
Well, you're going to be disappointed. This reminds me. Okay. It reminds you of
It's
what?
going to be something horrific and totally unreasonable.
No. It's not even. It's pathetic.
Right. Okay.
This reminds me of the person who calls in sick and then plays games for an hour or so. Well, you have just sort of summarized the actual situation. So I understand why it would remind you.
By the way,
of the situation.
Here's why that analogy fails instantly. Calls in sick to a job that isn't playing video games, not calls in sick to a job playing video games. Later on, are you ready, guys? Plays video games in a different context. Like that doesn't even. That's shit.
Tap wanted to get involved in the outrage. He said, "Wow, he could have at least used a secondary account." Like, it's not even the crime. It's getting caught. You fucking idiot.
Put it this way, someone didn't find a fucking laptop with all Perfecto's fucking demos on or something. Like, this isn't even a scandal. He knows he was in there. He probably had his name, Perfecto.
Then, my personal favourite, because it's just so overboard, Prince N71 got downvoted. I always love it when people start out with like, in the previous thread I was downvoted for this. But who's right now? Like, no one gives a fuck, you dickhead. You're nobody on an anonymous throwaway Reddit account. Probably your 10th or 20th that you've actually just got running actively at any given time. I was downvoted before. Who's laughing at? We're downvoting you again, dickhead. Fuck off. Anyway, got downvoted for pointing out how irresponsible it was of Perfecto to wait a whole bloody week before getting tested for COVID. And got downvoted for it. So he's been double downvoted, double secret probation for him. People seem to think it wasn't fair towards Na'Vi to forfeit the match since it was a pandemic and all, but never seemed to care that Forza players only found out 30 minutes prior to the match.
I'll just G-check that logic instantly.
Please do.
By your own logic, if anyone on Forza hasn't been tested yet, they're all fucked. Think about logically. He's saying he should have done it a week ago. I'm assuming, by the way, before he showed any symptoms. Hence, why the fuck would he be getting tested as just a random person in Russia? So, by your own logic, to be consistent, you must now condemn every player on Forza and every other team who plays Na'Vi if they haven't had a test for no reason whatsoever. Remember, your internal logic has to be consistent if you're going to condemn someone, guys.
Yep. Then and it's just the last one. Every comment in this is fucking stupid on some level. Like, there's not one intelligent person found this thread.
Listen, if we ever really get sick of CS and all other media opportunities dry up, at that point, I'll take a Reddit ban as well, and we'll just do a show that's just us reading Reddit threads, mate, and just going into the madness of Reddit. Like, that alone could be fucking quality.
Crimsy, Brazilian Furia fan.
Oh, this is going to be reasonable, I can tell.
Says this. No, he just said this needs to be higher. That's another one of my favorite Reddit tropes. It needs to be higher, right? Like, more people must see it's being suppressed. Please, it needs to be higher. Upvotes.
Wasn't it like a top 5 thread on the subreddit or something?
Yeah, just front page, of course. This needs to be higher after all the shitting on Forza people did yesterday, and then a follow-up with the very politicized account named Don't Buy Reddit Gold. Got him. Said, story of this sub. There are so many simple fanboys and Na'Vi fans. They disregard all the bullshit time after time.
Here's what I can't handle, Richard. Think of the reactions in this thread, and now imagine the myriad times where we bring up really serious conflicts of interest and like fucked up shit the Niam's doing, and people are going, well, to be fair, doesn't Nestle just use child labour? Like, just business, isn't it? Like, mate, you can never get a read on where Reddit is, except if you just know who they hate. And whoever they hate and love, they just like spiral completely opposite directions. Because like I say, the context of how mad they're going on this, you'd think they'd be going mental over all the astrology. Like, they should hate them.
And then Crimsy, this just tops it off. It's the cherry on the cake. Then we'll do the next story. While that is true, you must think of the image this sends. The level of CS played is irrelevant. Point is, he played, and he's put italics on played. He played CS.
God,
well done.
I know.
It's all over. Perfecto's just not allowed to sit at his computer. He's just not allowed.
Mate,
because he's got COVID.
For a second, just imagine being Perfecto, right? Because I remember that was what the Forza guy was doing, going like, imagine being me sitting here 20 minutes before the game and then it doesn't happen.
No,
it's like,
who cares,
yeah,
mate?
like totally extenuating circumstances that are totally reasonable, by the way, Wanker. That makes perfect sense. So, and then imagine being Perfecto though, like, bad news, mate. Tests come back positive. You're not going to be able to play the game. And who knows, probably have to self-isolate, can't be around people for a while. Like, obviously, there's the complications that maybe you could actually get really ill. It could threaten your life, blah, blah, blah. No. Tell you what, I'll go on Reddit. There's probably like a get well soon thread or something like,
no.
Got him. He should be killed or something like, it's so unreasonable.
They immediately just go to fucking DEFCON. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Kill it.
Burn him. Right. So anyway, let's have a look at the time. How are we doing for time?
About an hour 20 in, hour 25.
How long are these viewer questions? Right, I'll do.
There's a couple of long ones in there.
Yeah, all right. Well, there's a couple more stories we can get into, and then we'll be all up to date. Let's talk about obviously what happened with the IEM New York, North America.
It'll never stop being ridiculous to me, but whatever. Yeah, go on.
It is. Let's do that. The event happened, and a few storylines come out of it. So let's.
Just the nade shot one alone, mate. I was almost crying, laughing because listen, we were already making fun of him. We were already pointing out that like he's not the fucking sharpest tool in the box, is he? But
no.
It's when if people don't know the part, I'll set this one up. Like, listen, when 100 Thieves was in the final. And obviously, famously, they've won very few tournaments ever. Even when they were good, they would always be like a semi-final or a finalist, but never win, right? As they did, in fact, continue to do here. Obviously, people pointed out that Nadeshot, as we said on the last episode, doesn't really seem to give a fuck about the CSGO team or know anything about CSGO. So obviously, he does a classic overreaction to that and just goes, because obviously I think like Sponge and stuff will call him out on Twitter. So then he goes like, oh, if they want me to bloody get involved, I'll watch the stream. Pulls it up, just starts re-streaming it on his own stream. And then when ESL tells him to shut him down, even though he kept saying, like he was oscillating, he kept going like, listen, nah, no business, you know, and broadcast rights and that, but 15,000 people are going to be upset. And I was like, who gives a fuck? Yo, listen, mate, on that one particular answer, that is one of the biggest L's you've ever taken. That's so stupid. It's unbelievable. What do you mean? That's like going, oh, you don't even care about that movie that your sister was in that's on the cinema now. Well, I'll just re-stream a pirated copy right on Twitch. Like, what are you talking about, you mad cunt?
Like the whole situation was so fucking absurd. Like,
so ridiculous.
There were actually people as well that were kind of like saying, "Oh, just let him bloody re-stream."
By the way,
Is
here's
this real,
another point, just to make a point to those fans. The fact he had 15,000 people watching is worse because he has all specifically limiting the rights and selling the broadcast rights to YouTube or whatever, aren't they? Like, it's actually worse that you're taking people away to make some boomer fucking COD pro go, shit, man, maybe I should have kept these guys. Not really, though. Staff members don't listen to me. That's all a lie. Yeah, shit, I'll be sad to see him go.
Yeah, mental, isn't it? I mean, like, honestly, that entire thing was just so fucking ridiculous.
Funny,
no, but like, also as well, like, so, you know, imagine a world where he actually gave a shit about the CSGO team. Maybe he could have, like, reached out to ESL and been like, oh, can I co-stream, you know, the matches, and, you know, obviously you can put all of our numbers in your deck. I'll use your sponsors. Yeah, exactly. Could have done all that. Didn't give a fuck until he was called out on Twitter, of course. And then it's just like, mate, you have to understand, Nade Shot, right? I know you're doing the thing where you're kind of making it look like he's just like some fucking, you know, stoner dude. Where is my car, bro?
He's basically a Jane Silent Bob character to me.
No, like, I mean, this is the thing.
Put that shit in my hand. You ever seen a fat man in a waistcoat lick your assholes? That's Nade Shot to me, as far as I'm concerned.
No, but the fucking point is, remember that when MLG TV went out, like, Nade Shot was the guy that was like champion and that, talking about breaking up the like Twitch hegemony and dominance in the space and all that stuff. So he knows about streaming and streaming rights and the value it has. And he's like, can I not just restream it though, man? Because like 15,000 people are going to be mad at you. Like, come on, mate. Like, you know the rules. Like, it's so ridiculous. Anyway, so yeah, let's just talk about the storylines that came out of the IEM New York, North America, New York, Intel Extreme Masters 2020 for North America in New York. Stories. Let's just, we're never going to talk about these cunts again, probably, because obviously there's a lot of circumstances that's brought it up. What have you made of the emergence of the New England Whalers, Duncan?
I mean, listen, everyone knows I keep it real. I usually do it disrespectfully and say I don't give a fuck about anyone except Tier 1 and Flashpoint. I'm going to keep doing that, by the way, Flashpoint teams. So you get fucking good teams. Fuck you. I've told you a million times. And definitely don't have Owl teams to be spending money on them. Because if I see you spending that money, I'll be like those shit cunts going, got him, to like Perfecto. I'll be like, you have money to spare. Why are you buying Jacob or whatever? So anyway, yeah, the problem is, I'll tell you straight up, I'd never heard of that team. Like, I think from what I remember, it was like one or two players I noticed new on the lineup or whatever. But obviously, you don't expect them to do anything. To be fair, the lesson of the online era has been forget like status and reputation. If you just play well on the day, anything can happen in online Counter-Strike. It's just clear. If people hadn't, what's brilliant about 2020 in a sense, obviously the rest of it's tragic, is it's just shown where when everyone used to be against me just because I said online players bullshit and shouldn't count, etc. You've seen now when you host 1 billion online tournaments back to back to back, which really great team wins them all and always places top 4? They don't exist in the entire fucking world. Even in NA, the teams that were winning, like even if EG won a couple, they didn't just win everyone, did they? If Team Liquid was there, they make semis, don't win. Like the amount of teams that can win online, the variability goes nuts. You can't use your logic of like, but it's Elige, it's this guy, it's fucking Jake. Like, no, teams that you've never heard of because they just don't have the pressure. I mean, remember when this is like, but they're in the final, they're still in their bedroom. Like that, it doesn't have any of the factors that make a final amazing.
Exactly. So look, I want to call out like obviously the big shock result that they had here at IEM was they beat Furia 2-0. Furia being the obvious eventual winners of the tournament that we'll get to later on. Now, I'm not saying this is like a team to watch out for. I think that Ben Leak guy, isn't
he
that
Chaos briefly, I believe. Am I right? I think he's the one that got kicked for being too shit early on.
Yeah.
On the qualifier or something.
But the player that's like really stood out for them lately, although what I'll say is what's quite remarkable about this team is if you look at the stats, they're all pretty much on an even keel. There's not a huge amount of variance between them if you like look at the course over the tournament. But like this guy Booby, right? So there's a player called Booby.
He better end up being like simple if he wants to get away with that name.
Totally. I like you know, word of advice. Like I'm just saying in this day and age, rebrand before you blow up. Don't blow up with the name Booby. Like if it turns out you're sick, don't blow up with the name Booby and then have to change later and go, right, okay, I'm now Brandon. And yeah, that's me, Brandon. Like, no, you have to change your name now. Now is the time. Like if you are about to pop off, don't pop off.
Plus, I don't want someone with the name Booby to play in an official match and then Anders to get two-binned. Because listen, let's be real. If anyone was going to, We
Oh,
all
for sure.
know, you know.
Yeah, we know. We all know. But anyway, no, I mean, just like at a time when there's been lots of like despondency about, oh, look, all the tier 2 pros are leaving NA. Like, I still believe that while the scene is going to suffer long term because of the emergence of
some chicken
Valorant.
little sky is falling. Level
Yeah,
shit, isn't it?
like what a team like the New England Whalers shows is that there will be players that you've
Yes.
never heard of that will come in and fill the void. Remember, it was all doom and gloom when iBuyPower got fucking banned.
Agreed.
People were saying in 2015, look at all the talent we've lost. Fucking hell, Swag's gone. Like, you know, what's going to happen here? Like, all the great IGLs. Like, we'll never fill that void. And then it turned out that you actually go 3 years down the fucking line and you have NA winning a major with players you hadn't heard of.
I thought I'd just point this out because no one else has made this connection either. You know, you saw that all the iBuyPower players, because Skadoodle even went, are all in Valorant now, right? And all of them except Steel have joined a team. Like, what team is it they're in? Fuck. Some big squad.
It's T1.
T1,
Yeah.
yes. Right, they're all in they've basically made iBuyPower minus Steel, right? In that lineup. Right? Think about this for a second. T1 is an enormous organization. T1 is even, by the way, because of their links in the past with SK Telecom in Korea. I mean, admittedly, it's Americans involved now as well. Because of their links there, Korea is a scene where when people like Xavier and Life did the match fixing, coaches in the scene were saying insanely vitriolic things like, you are a fucking disgrace. You should have all your prize money taken and be put in prison, right? If you can get away in Valorant with putting proven match fixers back into the scene and making a big team out of them, why are we having this stupid wanky argument about counterstrike having the name of terrorists in it and stuff? Like, clearly sponsors don't give a fuck on certain things. Like, stuff like that is just like, those are the topics, Richard, where I know the irony is people would say shows like this should do it, but that is the sort of filler shit that they put on those like first take shows where they just have a slow Monday.
Oh, of
like,
course.
just talk around some bollocks that everyone's talking about a million times, you know? So like, I've always thought those angles are so overplayed, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it just boils down to this. Like, there are certain topics that are going to come up cyclically in esports as the latest wave of wankers washes up on the shore, and they've discovered it. And what they're really doing is, first of all, by, like, having a conversation, you're establishing credibility immediately. The only reaction should be, who the fuck are you to have a conversation? Button your fucking lip, say nothing, listen, learn, talk to me in 2 years. That's what you should be told. It's what you get told in any discipline, by the way. You don't walk into like an orchestra, you know, playing a fucking instrument and start telling the conductor, you know, have you ever thought that maybe you should do it? No, shut the fuck up and play your instrument, do your bit, and maybe one day you can have some thoughts outside of it. Learn the basics, then get creative. And unfortunately, we just don't tell dickheads that come into esports that, and we absolutely should. I mean, I got some other, like, LinkedIn is a fucking hilarious.
I hope you're doing a video on the topic.
Yeah, I am. I'm on it.
I know you probably thought people were overhyping it because they always do usually, but mate, it's the opposite. Like, that is a treasure trove when you start uncovering that guy's post.
Yeah, no, but not just this. Like, there's a ton. Like, there's like some fucking post with some guy going, I invented collegiate esports, me, like, and it's just some fucking Doyle you've never heard of and stuff. So, but anyway, like, you know, on LinkedIn, I've got a guy, right, who was objectively, like, he runs an esports podcast nobody listens to, and he's like added me, and I just want to body the guy. I just want to like have a conversation with him and just set him straight, because these are the people that like
ESPN esports podcast was that?
No, if only it's a guy who, like, he interviews, like, it's a nobody with no esports experience interviewing another nobody with no esports experience, arguing back and forth about why their points are right, or just endlessly agreeing with each other about why they're right.
Is it funny in sort of like
neither being true
watch way?
Yeah, well, so I've listened to a few episodes and they're all absolute trash. But like, I noticed, I think because he saw a tweet of mine where I was like talking about cunts on LinkedIn. I think he's added me. You didn't mean me, like, yeah, you didn't mean me, like, yeah. And I mean, no, absolutely, I do mean you, mate. You're in fact actually in the top 5 LinkedIn cunts that are going to be going on the show. So I am gonna do a LinkedIn thing. But anyway, no, it's like I just wish like newcomers would just be like, listen, you don't get to walk into any other industry and suddenly your thoughts are like the most important thoughts we should all be listening to. Even if you've been successful in something else, this isn't true. It doesn't work like that, and it don't work like that here. So yeah, the reason we have these fucking filler shit, like, is another classic, is esports. Yeah, I've had that conversation 500 fucking times, and it's been answered, by the way, kinda, but not. And that's that. We've done it. Like, move on. Shut the fuck up. Like, it's so ridiculous. So yeah, I am sick to death of those cunts. Anyway, I do want to say that just give a shout out to the New England Whalers and just add that all the doom and gloom around NACS. Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, you're going to lose some household names, but the point always remains that you will get new players up and come in. And like they've had that's a 6th place finish at a tournament they weren't even meant to be at, finishing above Chaos, finishing above Triumph, finishing above Mythic. You know, fucking fair fucks to them. They deserve plaudits.
I won't claim that like none of the players that left were legit. Like obviously I wanted Daps and Som and Wardell and Dapper. I wanted a few people to stay in CS. You know, some of the other ones like Subrosa, listen, mate, you were all right at the end, but like until you just admit that it definitely was you who signed up to that cheating forum, I don't give a fuck. I haven't got any time for you, mate. Like, listen, they did it years before you were famous using your fucking birth name. Like, how much more coincidental do you want to get it anyway? But listen, there's some people where this is why the whole NA is dying angle is so whack. Loads of those are the ones that never made it, you fuck. The ones I didn't mention were people who barely had made it. But then they're like, but look, I've shown that CS is dying because I've got an enormously overrated salary in a game that doesn't really exist yet. No, that shows you that the esports industry is full of fucking cretins that constantly just get on the new hype train and then jump off before it goes off a cliff or just go off the cliff with it and then get on the next one anyway. So think about this though. Just this year alone, with the mixture of teams dissipating, Flashpoint having obviously worse teams in it than normal in a big tournament of that scale, and the online component, we've had Grim not just emerge, but go straight to a fucking tier one of the best teams in the world. Zephyr, what a fucking revelation. That was like Steele's 3rd or 4th pull that fucking year to get people into his team. Just pulls this guy out of nowhere. We've got Leaf briefly looking good before, unfortunately, all of Brazil just decided to bully this guy into like fucking bad form or something like that. We've had tons of people coming up with these New England Whaler guys. He say this result now. Like, the whole point is, some of them might just be bullshit. Like, yeah, if you remove enough teams, someone's going to get bumped up who isn't that good. But I guarantee someone in some of these teams probably ends up being legit. And obviously some of them eye test tells you are legit and some of them like the ones we said, Grim, etc. Like, so it's like the classic mindset in life. Like if you only see a problem, yeah, you're fucked. You have to see it as like an obstacle to overcome, don't you? And so in a way, this could actually purge NA. This would be a good thing, by the way, of people who were only there for the money. Mm-hmm. If people were only there for the money, I don't necessarily want that many of them. If they're good at the game, yeah, I'll take it. But I'm cool with just the people who love CS playing CS. There's always going to be enough, I guarantee you guys. It's not a problem. Like, what I don't get about those angles is that's the only thing they're doing, Richard, using like anecdotal, like they just ignore anything on the graph they don't want. I'm just picking these players, and because they've left, the scene's dead. You'd have to use more evidence than that. Like, what are the viewer numbers? I'll tell you a good one. How about track like accounts that like used to have CS and now I don't know what the fucking angle you're going to go with, but you see what I mean? Like, there's a million other ways you could do this if you wanted to actually prove it.
So anyway, let's like if you go one up, let's talk about Team Liquid. Disappointing 5th place finished here for the boys. Like we talked about Grim joining the team. Obviously, they've been bedding in a new player. But if you look at how they'd performed at tournaments prior to this, they had a couple of 2nd place finishes in August with DreamHack Open Summer and ESL 1 Cologne. Currently participating in the ESL Pro League. So I think they were obviously among the favourites for this, even though I think they finished 4th, was it, in the Pro League? I'm not too sure.
I think there were semis at least, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, and because of that, because of the way that the format works, 4th sounds bad, but yeah, essentially semi-finalists. So about on point for where they should be, but they finished 5th here, and if you go and look at the results, you know, they lost to 100 Thieves. They had a pretty, squeaky bum time fucking run against Furia, who beat them as well. They did have a couple of dominant performances in it there. Like they beat Team One very convincingly. They destroyed Mythic, which again, these are things that you would expect to happen. But honestly, like they weren't clean against Chaos. That second map was pretty close, from what I remember. And overall, the 5th place finish, you know, getting knocked out by 100 Thieves, not great. Or rather, getting knocked out by Furia, not great. They came up against the 2 finalists and lost both times. So I know Moses has only been bedded in since August. And I know Grimm's only joined in a sort
Just
of
before
similar,
that,
just before that, in a similar amount of time. How are we feeling about Team Liquid at the moment?
Yeah, the big problem is this isn't even one where the normal like investigation, like the initial things you do, like you look up the stats, you look if someone's dropped off, you look at like what maps they're winning on, you look at it's not even any of that. Like stats wise, it's exactly where you want it to be. Like Elysia's banging out of control, like Twist is back in good form, Naf's a monster, Grim contributes where he can, Stewie the IGL, unsurprisingly the low frag. Like actually the team stats wise looks great. Like if you were just a stats nerd, you're like, this should be a good team. But as you say, somehow the reason why the stats look amazing is because Team Liquid has this insane Jekyll and Hyde complex where they either look like what you know they could be, the best team in the fucking world, just blow everyone out the server. Elysia have like 40 kills on a map or something. And in that map, that's the super high they establish, but then they'll have a map afterwards, sometimes against any level of team, where they just are like average as fuck. And against someone like Fury, you're going to get your ass beat like that. So unfortunately, the consistency just isn't there. And like, listen, obviously, I don't know what Moses is doing within the team, but yeah, it's not a great look. Like he's just come in the team. And quite frankly, the curse and the blessing of the team he got was you have the players where everyone expects you to win. Well, the downside of that, mate, is everyone expects you to win. Like in that team, you could only lose. Unless you win the whole tournament, you can. There's no like Team Liquid even come in second to EG. People are like something wrong with them. What can they do different? Like that's the game you're playing though. And Moses knows that, by the way. And also, listen, he's another guy where I'll just say it now. I'm not saying this just because he's my mate. I've given this consideration to other people. He's also someone where I expect his biggest value to come when he go offline again, when he can have all the boot camps with him 24/7 and he can give him the pet talk and stuff like. Some of that stuff doesn't translate as much online. And they're also another example of a team where it's like. Do you think it's a coincidence that some of the best LAN teams have done actually comparatively the worst online? No, those are the guys who, it doesn't matter how many times they try and like self-hypnotize them that this online game matters. It doesn't when you've won an Intel Grand Slam and all those LAN events back to back with the front of the baying crowd and you stood at a desk with a trophy. Like, it ain't going to mean as much to win just another game in your bedroom, is it? Like, it's not as cool, I'm afraid. So listen, those are excuses and they don't like, it's not like they don't exist, but you have to, at the end of the day, if you're the team, you have to live by the results, and the results haven't been good enough.
Well, I'll put it this way. So if you include results from the ESL Pro League and the other tournaments that they went to and went runners up in, right? So if you go and look at that, they first of all that I think it was the DreamHack one. They lose to Furia, which they do all the time. They can't. They've got a real, They've got a real mental block with that. Then in Cologne, I think it was Evil Geniuses. Right?
That was when EG, by the way, went on like a 16 fucking win streak against everyone as well.
So that had a bit of everything there. If you're a Liquid fan, it's got EG beating Liquid, which has happened more often than not. It feels like lately, but it's also got the classic choking element to it. So if you can't beat Furia and EG, it's still not the end of the world.
No.
It's still not the end of the world.
It's acceptable two teams to lose to, basically, in any way.
Yeah, exactly. It's acceptable, and you might avoid them. But what gets interesting is, if you go and look in the ESL Pro League, well, Liquid got beat by 100 Thieves, and they've been beaten by 100 Thieves here. This is a team, by the way, that's been on life support for as long as we know. I mean, you think these players didn't know the writing was on the fucking wall?
No.
And we're trying to go.
It was a dead team walking.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where it becomes unacceptable for this Liquid roster to be struggling against the Aussies at 100 Thieves. There's no disrespect to them, but like I think even if they were on this podcast right now and you were to say like, you know, are these guys better players than you individually? They would go, yeah, absolutely. But you know, for some reason, 100 Thieves now is in that trifecta of Kryptonite. Well, unfortunately, that now means that like. Good luck, you are getting rid of 100 Thieves. But just in the context of recent results, actually, you're like the fourth best team in NA. And that's
unacceptable for that lineup.
And that is absolutely dog shit. Yeah, that's absolutely dog shit.
Absolutely. And I'll even say as well, like actually, I guess I'm shifting topics here, but I'll just say, like, since you brought up the 100 Thieves one, what I do appreciate is how on brand it was for the CSGO team, 100 Thieves, that their problem always has been, can never get over the hump, always too laid back. Listen, you know how FaZe with like Nico, just like literally, it's like he's literally like trying to sneak out the window. Like, we've got to just play this final. Oh, fucking, all right then. Comes back, play, oh, bloody won it. Maybe I'll think about staying, mom. Called Zera's mom. Like, listen, at least those cunts won on the way out. They were like, well, fuck it, you know, go out in a blaze of glory. It's totally on brand for 100 Thieves to go, sorry, we just couldn't get it done in the last time. just get the fuck out. Listen, we love you. I'm joking, but in a way that did summarize your whole career, you guys. Like, come on, guys.
Well,
cheer
yeah,
for us.
they're timing 100 Thieves for sure. I mean, like, you know, different world in when they were wearing the Renegades tag for some reason. But anyway, yeah, I mean, like, EG had a similar problem, you know, losing to Furia. EG are one of the teams that have had a big, like, resurgence of late. You know, obviously won a tournament. They were up to, you know, #1 in the rankings.
And there's that weird story where they're coming to Europe now to boot camp to play a bunch of shit. So, yeah, they seem to be pretty actually focused on play now. Yeah, they're not phoning it in.
Yeah. How do you feel? I mean, like, again, I feel like Furia is so good right now anyway.
Furia can beat anyone, mate. There's another tragedy. Well, I guess I'm literally... Yeah, no, we had on this conversation. I'm blurring if it was a past conversation. No, it was on this show when we were talking about TI.
Yep.
There's certain teams in CS I have the same feeling about. I might even do an article about it at the end of the year, like the teams that really should feel like what if because of this year. EG's one of them, mate, because once they got their shit together with Zeus, mate, that's a team, same with Furia, where I need to see them play against Astralis and fucking FaZe Clan or whoever the good team, Vitality, the teams who are good in Europe, because for all I know, maybe they're better. Maybe EG and Fury are the best teams in the world. Like, sometimes they look like it. But the problem is, when you're stuck in NA, you will never be allowed that credit. Like, you almost have to do what EG did. EG only got the #1 ranking by, literally, as I said, going like 16-0 in maps at one point in time. Like that's an unreasonable standard to have to reach to be #1, guys. Like, but the problem is, until you play the best European teams, it's just the chauvinism of counterstrike. So yes, I feel so bad for Furia because I want to see that style of play match up against the best European. I think some of them, they'd get them.
Yeah. So we've obviously talked a lot about 100 Thieves across the you know, previous two. So let's just wax lyrical about Fury. Something we didn't know if we were going to be able to do again, because obviously when they hit that high water mark of being 5th in the world, you know, had that breakout party where they beat Astralis, you know, twice at LAN, incredible unique playing style, and then they kind of fell off, made a roster change. Well, now, I mean, like, they're one of the most improved teams in 2020, and they were already playing at an incredibly high standard. They're up to 3rd in the world rankings, which is, again, the highest they've ever been. And if you just go and look at what they've done over the course of this, you know, let's start from the summer.
Permanently top 4, it feels like, over this year. They're unreal, their consistency.
DreamHack Masters Spring North America, 1st place. Blast Premier 2020 America Showdown, joint 1st and 2nd.
ESL,
yeah, exactly. ESL Pro League, North American qualifier, topped that out. Blast Premier Spring America Finals, finished 3rd. DreamHack Open Summer, finished 1st. ESL 1 Cologne, 3rd, 4th semi-finalist. ESL Pro League, they won that, 1st place. And now this, they've won IEM New York 2020. It's actually remarkable because the one question in most people's minds when you talked about Furia was, yeah, they're a fucking amazing team to watch. They've got, you know, super exciting players, Keserato, Yuri, Henny, all popping off, you know, solid support work and all that from Vinny, but also Art, aggressive, running at you, constantly pushing, constantly poking at you, has this unbelievable, unique play style that's just so aggressive. Other teams are still too afraid to try it. You won't find many players that play like him in World Counter-Strike. In fact, I would go as far as to say he's probably one of the few truly unique players in terms of what he does. But, like, they weren't winning tournaments even when they were a good team to watch. But now, we just said it, the Team Liquid's kryptonite. They can beat EG. You know, 100 Thieves have never really been an issue to them. They were 1-0 down in this final and came back against them, spanking them on Inferno and then closing out the series. It's been, and you know, the meteoric rise of this 2nd iteration of Furia has been something to behold.
One thing I think you touched on there, but didn't explicate more, is when they came up, the whole story, admittedly, it was only at Able J and they didn't have experience and this was LANs. Listen, there's a whole other set of factors, sure. But I would also say, I'm sure they've developed in the last year and players have gotten their shit together and they've learned more about each other and they've added Henny and there's all these factors to consider. This is the issue. The easiest analysis, and we were all right who said it, even though everyone was like, you're just hating on a team that came up because you want the big team to win. We all said they'll be figured out. They won't be the best anymore. They won't beat some of these teams and they'll fall back off again because you have to sort of pay your dues. Well, here's the interesting thing. That sort of a team, a fluke team, that's like the blip on the radar. Every now and then you get one. They have now become, I can't say for the whole world because they can only compete against NA. They are easily the hardest team to beat in NA for the whole year. Because as you're pointing out, to even get them to lose in a tournament is like semis. And even if it's semis, it's going to, say you beat them 2-0 on maps, they're going to be 16-12, 16-14. Like they're going to potentially threaten to win your map pick. Otherwise, it's 3 maps and overtimes. And fuck it, this team is so hard to beat. Like that's why not only are they mad fun to watch with the eye test, like you're talking about all those players, but mad respect for like the grit they've got and the determined. That's why what's great is I just love that we have this control group of Furia to contrast against the MIBR players who are legends and who had all these million excuses. And it's like, look at the team that is in the same position as you guys. They don't need your excuses. They're just fucking playing Counter-Strike. They're just winning games. They're doing their work.
Now, I'll give you a little bold prediction here. They're going to be the #1 team in the world in November. Now it's not the boldest prediction, but it's we like to throw these things out there.
Sure.
Well, no, I'll tell you why I think it definitely happens. It's like it would be a solid bet, let's say. So currently above them in the rankings, right, is Astralis and Heroic. And the next big tournament that comes up is Blast Premier Fall Series, right? It's going to run over. It's in a week and it runs through right to the about November the 5th or something. Right. Well, in Group C, Furia starts against G2. Winnable game, easy, I'd say, because G2 have been all over the place for reasons we talked about in the last episode of the podcast. And is Nico joining? Is not? Big weird cloud over it. I'd put money on Furia beating them. But then next up, in the other side of the bracket, Astralis are playing MIBR. Right? Now, obviously, Astralis beat MIBR.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a gimme. But then it means Furia play Astralis. So they're the masters of their own destiny there. And I think Furia will beat. I think this Furia...
But remember, Astralis is bringing Zipnix back, so it won't be the Astralis that just won that ESL Pro League.
Exactly. So I think Furia then beat Astralis. Now, and Heroic aren't at the tournament at all. So all Furia have to do here is essentially put Astralis into a position where they're knocked out early, which they absolutely do by directly playing against them and beating them, and then just have a deep run at this tournament. Yes. And so, listen, there's some good teams here. Like, obviously, Navi are playing, Nip are playing, EG are playing, OG are playing, Vitality are there, Complexity are there. It's not going to be easy. Oh, yeah. But on current form, you would have to back Furia against probably like half of those teams I just said. I think it wouldn't be unreasonable to say they would be favourites to win, given the form they're bringing in. So if Furia get a deep run, they make it like semi-finals, finals, consolidation final. Well, there's only 100 points between them and Astralis in the HLTV rankings. So Astralis go out early, Furia have a deep run, Furia are the world's #1 team. Just telling you. So I think it happens. I think they actually get to #1. I'll be super happy when they do.
I'm actually looking forward to seeing that cross-regional play as well. I mean, the downside, like you said... Oh, God,
the world's been crying out for it, mate. Yeah.
Unfortunately, because obviously Blast is it's not really like a franchise league, but it has the partners. It's to do with like a whole season. Unfortunately, it means that they are cursed with the fact that like, yeah, we all want to watch Heroic play, but they're just not in that. They're not in the circuit, are they? So what can you do about that one?
Exactly. And then just last story, the monthly viewer questions. I just want to show you, because we had to talk about MIBR. Because we left it a little bit. Well, first of all, I just want to, again, add a bit more brevity, levity, I should say, rather, to the proceedings.
Never had any brevity. Don't even
no, not brevity. I, of course, meant levity, not brevity, I just want to show you some of the insane shit that I get sent on a daily basis. So, and it's clean. So, as you know, Sam, I've just put it up there in the chat.
I hate everything about the internet.
Yeah, as you know, obviously we talked a lot about Gowles on the show, and I just got a DM out of the blue, and it just was one word. It just said Meowles, and it was this picture. So I don't know if you want to bring it up, Sam.
You know, all those people a few years, I can't remember how many years, was it 5-10 years where they were all like the bronies and all that? Yeah. I thought that was just like, fucking lost kids just like flexing a fake identity and like, pretending like I didn't expect that was like the vanguard and it was going to get worse afterwards. Like,
just
give me a break.
Just classic Meowles. So good to know. Anyway, yeah, MIBR. Just when you think, right, if ever there was an org that, like, I don't know, just have some surely now they've got rid of those guys. You can get back to having principled, well, anyway, obviously they need to have a lineup and supposedly they're going to be playing with some stand-ins. And these stand-ins include Lucas One, who's obviously been with MIBR before, so relatively...
Fucking hell, mate. Do you have any self-esteem?
What
are you doing? Yeah, what are you doing? Like, mate, this is one of those areas where I'm so sick of people like fucking just letting other people just run rampant over them. It's a bit like that story earlier in the year where Astralis desperately needed to play in Blast. They had to try and borrow Snappy. So then Heroic, who's, by the way, CEO, claimed publicly he is going to sue them for what happened with the FPX deal, just goes, yeah, you can just have him then, can't you? I'll just cancel that deal to Tiger. It's like your actions show everything other than what you said. Like in that scenario, that's literally like you're in the fucking Lion King and you're Scar. That's your moment to chuck him. Long live the king. That's when you're supposed to wreck the cunt. Like that's the moment you're supposed to be waiting for. Instead, they go, you mind just playing in this tournament where you'll definitely get dicked by everyone, look totally stupid, and everyone will go, glad we cut you, just to save our asses. Yeah, why not? Why not have a laugh? By the way, also KNG, listen, mate, you were talking all that good shit online. Oh, you were fucking riding with your boys. Straight back into the team, of course. Yep. Oh, just talk, isn't it? Was you drunk or wait?
Well, well, we're going to get to it. Listen, I think the most mad part about this is, like, Lucas has been playing relatively well, I would say, with Imperial. It's not like an incredible place for an ex-MIBR player or a player of his experience to land. But, it is what it is. Like, he's got a solid over there. I'm like you. I wouldn't want to go back to MIBR, but I would say with the caveat, at least he's not having to deal with who we can suspect were probably the arseholes that were fucking with him and fucking with his career.
Yes.
So there was him. Then there's like a guy, I'll be honest, I've never seen him play, called Leo Drunky. Awesome. But then this is where it gets interesting. Now, you will remember there's a guy called KNG, right? And he's the most principled guy in the world. He'll never apologize if he's right. He'll never apologize if he believes he's right. He rides and dies with his homies.
Well, except for that time that he wanted to get an MIBR, so he wrote that whole thing that basically sold out all of his values and everything that he'd done for
you are right. You are right.
Aside from one time, though, listen, everyone gets one mistake.
I'm about to do the Stuart Lee bit. The values of the car phone warehouse.
Aside from the time he sold out one time everything just to get in a team and get a really big salary. Aside from that, he's a really principled guy, apparently.
Yeah. So, but he was, after that time, he would definitely never sell out.
Yes, exactly. Twice. I mean, what the fuck is that? Listen,
I mean, selling out twice, which of course he has sort of done by not riding or dying with his homies. But I suspect, I suspect behind the scenes,
I don't think anyone brought that up to him, Richard. And I'm not sure he's put two and two together on that one.
No, I suspect behind the scenes someone is holding a metaphorical gun to his head and making him play. Otherwise, otherwise he wouldn't do it. Yeah, it's KNG, mate. He's like the most trustworthy, honest, principled, professional player of all time. I mean, you can see he feels strongly about stuff. He's always threatening to kill people. He must be legit, right?
He's literally ride or die.
Yeah, literally, right? So anyway, there's a player. First, I'll say, you will remember, of course, that when we had all of the scandal, I say scandal, Chaos beat a dog shit team masquerading as MIBR. That's the story. And that was apparently a big scandal in Brazilian Counter-Strike. It was KNG, if you remember, who went on to the went onto the stream that Gaules was having and basically said, listen, if anyone cheats against us, cheaters in general, it's bad. But if someone was cheating, think of the sacrifices I make to be here away from my family. I've got a child coming and I'm here playing and there's kids cheating against me. It's injustice. Where's the justice? He made a massive deal, right, about how cheaters are bad and if you cheat against him and Then he kind of sold out a little bit, didn't he? Because remember, cheating's bad. Don't cheat against me. And then there was someone on his team that got caught cheating, wasn't it? It was dead. It was the manager who pretended to be a coach.
I'll never get over the fact that they really are still clinging on to you only cheated in one round. I still get that'll never not be funny to me. You have to understand, guys, because it's so ludicrous.
Yep. And so he said that even though he cheated only in one round, it turned out he cheated in one round in 5 games. So 5 rounds, but and pistol rounds, which are exponentially more important.
And he implicated himself in a totally different game, which is one of my favourite fuck-ups of all time.
Yeah. You sent me this video. Yeah, gotcha, bitch. Yeah, we fucked you. We fucked you.
It's one of the most ridiculous hoisted by your own petard moments I've seen in years.
You sent me the wrong video. You sent me the video of me cheating. No, at this event. Anyway, so he did sell out his principles there on cheating a little bit, didn't he? So, all right, he sold that. You sell out 3 times, Duncan. But after that, right? Everyone.
At that point.
Well, no, but everyone gets free. Everyone gets 3 times.
Okay.
Everyone gets 3. 3 strikes, you're out. That's the rule, isn't it? Now, even though that was his 3rd strike and he should be out, really, when you say 3 strikes, you're out, you mean 4, don't you? You really mean 4. So he wouldn't do it again. But then it appears to me that he is playing with a Brazilian player called VSM.
Oh, I remember this, yeah.
Yeah, you might have heard of VSM. VSM's joining MIBR. He's a sensational player, absolutely sensational, as Tosspot might say. Yeah. Sorry, I nearly said D-Man, bringing him to the party. But the problem is, he is sensational, but he has been backbanned.
They do have sort of similar voices in a way. And listen,
Tosspot will never forgive me for that.
But it's also been so many years that, listen, I do the same thing. Sometimes Tosspot, D-Man, Joe Miller, and Red Eye do all just blur into one person.
I don't believe it. Just victim Eldrew.
That's the other thing people don't understand because we're boomers, sadly. There was a show in the 90s that was huge where the guy just kept going around going, I don't believe it. Like,
one foot in the grave, it's called.
You have to understand, which ironically did fit. That could be biography of D-Man's career, right? That's it. And the other foot was in fucking, I don't know. Like
Football manager, yeah.
Exactly.
An away game.
But the problem I had with that is, so as a result, when I first came into League, I knew D-Man from COD and those other games.
Yeah, he was a
legend.
legend.
So he's commentating. I remember saying to the person I knew who introduced me to League, like, why does he keep saying that thing over and over again? Oh, it's his catchphrase. And I go, it's fucking annoying though. It's like, remember that old phrase that people say? And he was going, nah, it's fucking legendary, mate. Everyone loves it. And I'm like, no, it's like, I showed the person the YouTube video, like, look, he's just doing a shit version of that. He's just changed one word from this guy, this old ass guy's catchphrase. So for me, that was ruined forever. Like, I couldn't get hyped. He was going, I cannot believe he's turned this thing fair. Like, get me out, please. I'm watching Dave reruns, am I? What is this? It's esports.
No, it is rough. So anyway, putting D-Man to the side, like esports has.
That could also be the title of his biography. Putting D-Man to the side by me, D-Man.
So anyway,
by the way, we should just cut it together someday. Since you're doing all those highlight videos, there should just be one that's like the roast of D-Man because we mentioned him about 50 times.
I'll tell my boy Xdeffel, if you're around, make it so. We'll have the D-Man Burns highlights video. There must be enough. That'll be 10 minutes long, easy. So anyway, VSM was sensational, Duncan. He was a sensational player. But he's got the slight problem of having cheated and having a VAC ban on one of his accounts.
I hate when that happens.
Now, I'll give you all the extenuating circumstances and all of that stuff.
By the way, how has no one yet coined the phrase, it was a vaccident, for when these guys all claim that, like, oh, I don't know how the bloody got caught cheating. That was only one time. That should be a thing. There you go. That's the title of it. There you go.
So, just saying, like, personally, as we've said on the show many times.
He's had a vaccident. There you go. There's a new mate. Make him vote for that. That's
doesn't need to have the ease. Doesn't need that. Understand it. Some would say that might make it a little bit irritating.
Basically, if D-Man was commentating that game where Emilio got like VAC banned live on stream, he'd go, "He's had a accident. Bloody! I can't believe.
I don't believe it.
Oh, what's that? Yeah, hold on the riot stock." Listen, that's the one part I do feel cruel about bringing up because it is so cruel to bring up. But the problem is incredibly funny as well. So,
yeah, and like most cruelty. And timestamp.
This is not a cruelty-free podcast. You understand?
Yeah, no, it's not.
Listen, Dust knows that.
True. We use caged hens to make this podcast. Anyway,
that needs to be said. I'll just say this once and for all, just to let people know where this podcast stands and always will. Is if you've ever followed him. Essentially, Vince, who has been a friend of ours for years and a valued colleague, and I respect him a lot, he has many times publicly said it hurts his feelings and he really doesn't like it when we bring it up. It's just too funny. I don't give a fuck, mate. Sorry. That's how banter works, isn't it? Like, listen, I didn't make the rules. I'm just a cunt. That's all I can do.
Well, I will just add this, Duncan. I'll add that probably out of all of the banter we've it can never go too far for Dust because he deserves it on some level.
Vince, I agree.
With Vince, I remember it breaking.
It was breaking him. It broke his soul.
Yeah, no, but that was the thing, because after the fucking scat jokes came up, and we were doing a show.
Reasonable thing to associate with someone's character, though. Isn't it?
Yeah, I know, and it's because it's definitely not real, guys.
Like eating shit.
Yeah, it's not real.
That was a meme.
Yeah, it was like, it was just when he said, like, he sounded like he just got back from Vietnam. He was saying to us on Discord, he went, well, I mean, they've sent me hundreds of pictures of people eating shit. It's just gone too far. He was absolutely broke. It's fucking mental.
So I will say, Vince, listen.
It's just gone so far.
At least 40% of why we do bring you up is because Richard likes to do that Newcastle accent. I can't listen. It's not our fault.
Also, that is another reason. Yeah, that is another reason. Like, I just
that's
like
not your fault, but
do you have to just cause what Geordie's like? I do just love doing that. But anyway, right, back to is any of our other friends we want to just insult needlessly?
Let's go.
Yeah, here you go. We'll throw this in. Seaside, all the fortunes he's known now. He's got shingles at the moment. Suck a dick. There you go. Like we're being cruel. Get well soon, mate. Get well soon. Shingles is a bad one. So yeah. Anyway, there was another joke. I'm not doing it.
Yes, right, we do not like to be beside the seaside.
Not bad. Not bad. Not your best. 5.
A fucking song from the 20s or something. Whatever. Yeah.
Boom the numbers. Right. Anyway.
So make that highlight video, boom the numbers, where it's just us referencing all the shit from the 80s. And by the way, if you want to make it really clever, show like a picture of the movie or whatever the actor, because half the people watching it are just like faking along going, yeah, I remember that thing, Richard, that video nasty from 1989 that you're referencing. Like,
it's so insane. Chance. So insane. Yeah, you're right. That bit in Driller Killer. Right. So anyway, let's finish. Let's end strong, Duncan. Let's do it. Right. So, as we've said many times on this show, we think if there's like extraneous circumstances for a VAC ban, have an investigation, there should be appeals. We just said it in this show, right? So with VSM, they've said he had a VAC banned account, he was a kid, blah, 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 all of that noise. But it's definitely an account that was in his possession. He's having to own it. And in many ways, he's like a fantastic talent that probably it would be good enough to play on a world stage. Could have been in a team like where a Furia are now if it wasn't for this VAC ban hovering over him. But I just want to say, if you're KNG and cheating is the worst thing that anyone can do, and cheating is literally taking the food out of people's mouths and keeping them away from kids, and where is the justice? Where's the justice, man? How can you play with a VAC ban player, you mad cunt? How? How do you rationalise it? I'm asking you, Duncan. You can.
Oh, there is no reason why. Like, as we've learned, I mean, listen,
not a rhetorical question.
Sadly, it's not just esports in general, but it's particularly concentrated. I won't even say about Brazilians, because luckily now I have Furia to show you it ain't all Brazilians. One of the problems with the MIBR guys is this is why they also just keep getting made to look like absolute clown shoes, because they constantly make these moral pronouncements, and then it's like, but your mate's just done all that. No, he hasn't. Like, they're like, just in denial, aren't they?
I don't believe it.
I wasn't even. He wasn't even with him. So it's like one of those, like, you know.
No. Let's do the viewer questions. But anyway, that MIBR team. I know you're banging on them, but isn't MIBR going to be at Flashpoint?
Yeah.
With that lineup.
Yeah, finishing last place.
So obviously, if you want to see MIBR,
getting ploughed by way better teams. Yeah, great.
Tune in. Right, viewer questions. Alice the Alchemist. Right, hang on.
Check.
Check it's about tennis, so I'm definitely all the way out. For Thorin, after Nadal's record 13th win in the most recent French Open, a tie Federer in all-time major titles, 20 total each, whose style do you think has been more impressive to help them accomplish this feat? Is it Federer's natural technical talent and performance on the other two surfaces, grass and
Good question so far.
Or Nadal's absolute dominance in clay and technical progression in the other surfaces?
See, the weird thing there is that he didn't include Djokovic, who's got 17 titles or something, and is actually in theory the number one player. So I'll just include him, right? Of the three players, what's great about them is that they run the whole gamut of a type of player you can have. Like Federer's like the amazing like front runner, caught like ball placement, hit every shot in the book, like just amazing grace, style, and obviously has won many, many championships over an incredibly long period of time. Nadal's style is like the ultimate like grinder style. It's actually like his will to win that I find incredible. Like, you just can't mentally break this guy. He's really the guy where like it doesn't matter. He's like, it's like a movie. He has to get beaten up sort of, and then he just activates like God mode and comes from behind and wins every single time. And then Djokovic is just the example of someone where they're just like a robot. They just never make a fucking mistake. And in tennis, like the joke is, a guy like that's like a wall. You're just hitting the ball against the wall. Well, eventually you're the one that's going to miss, not the fucking wall, is it? Like, so what I find interesting is this: when people have the whole debate, like who's better, who's greater, etc. I know why people go with Nadal, because if it was a movie, he has the best story in the movie. Like he's the guy where he shouldn't have done that, and the things he did were incredible, and the comebacks he's had, and the heart he's shown, and the injuries he's come. It is incredible. It's like a movie in real life. Like I actually, by the way, he's a classic guy where if you say that you're going to win 13 times at one Grand Slam, if people don't know, the record before Federer came along was 14 Grand Slams total. Nadal's won 13 at one fucking Grand Slam. That is fucking mental. So listen, I'm with you. I don't mind if you want any of these three as your greatest. Like there's a good reason for all of them. And I also think in most sports, there isn't a consensus. Like you can usually pick from different eras. But the interesting thing to me about it is there is actually a factor that people never seem to factor in for specifically Nadal, actually, which is this. And I know it's going to sound harsh, but it's one of the things that triggers me about a lot of sports, which is I hate in sports when they like fuck with rules and stuff. And it means that you can't judge eras because like one set of, like the most obvious is like the NFL. I'm sure you get triggered by this, mate, where every single fucking game, someone's breaking like a record. It's always like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. They're always breaking these records. It's like, mate, the guy in the 80s who set that record actually could get smashed by the fucking middle linebacker.
Know, yeah.
Like, if you threw what you called a bang 8 route to the wide receiver, that's because a guy runs like straight into his fucking face. If he does that, that's going to instantly be penalties now. So the point is, offensive stats are inflated. Well, in the same sense, what a lot of people don't know is like, first of all, in this modern generation, just the tennis racket technology got too good. So as a result, they used to literally play with like the, not wooden, but like the really like not very advanced rackets in the era of Sampras and Agassi, etc. So as a result, by the way, it is just easier to return the shots now, which definitely helps the game of Nadal and Djokovic. Whereas actually Federer would probably play in any era. Secondly, and this is the big factor to me that unfortunately is the case I give against Nadal, which is you can go find articles saying this. Back in the day when it was Sampras, Agassi, the classic open era players, all the courts were totally different. Like the US Open, Australian Open, they were like hard courts, but even then, one's like in the extreme heat of Australia, one's in America in like the summer. Then you had Wimbledon, which was like super fast grass, so you could do the serve and volley. Then the French Open is the super slow clay for the grinders, leg grinders, man. And the whole point is, as a result, the people who win the French Open tended to be like one tricks. They just won the French Open. They wouldn't then win Wimbledon and the French Open as well. You had to be a god to do something like that. So what people don't know is, in the modern day, they have actually slowed all of the courts down. Even Wimbledon grass, they made so slightly slower. Like that's actually when you can almost track when Federer stopped winning. And so the worst is what they did to the US Open. A hard court used to be a fast surface. Federer won 5 of them in a row, but they slowed it down. So the problem with that essentially is, listen, you have to, at the end of the day, you can only beat who's ahead in front of you, and you can only play by whatever the rules of your day are. And if you accomplish things that no one else did, yeah, you accomplished them. But with that context, I think, unfortunately, people are just trying to compare apples and oranges in some ways. So personally, I'm biased. I still like Federer generally. Like, I enjoy watching him play the most. And if I had to pick the greatest, I feel like when it's all said and done, the one that'll probably win is the boring one, Djokovic. I feel like he'll probably just grind on for a few more years, crack out more titles. And he won't have done it in the same like flamboyant fashion or amazing story of Nadal, but he'll just win by... Sometimes you can just be... It's like astrology. You can just kind of be boring, but you just own the game. So of the two, I'll pick Federer for that one because I just love I just love styles. Like I don't have to... The guy doesn't have to win for me to think he's the best. I just like people who have a fantastic style, unreplicatable, as it were.
So, just one thing, because I did see a story from tennis that boiled my piss the other day, like last month it was. Right? Did you see when Djokovic got disqualified because he hit the line judge with the ball?
Obviously, accidentally.
Yeah, but like, have you seen the video footage of it?
Yeah.
Like,
he even
is she having a laugh?
No, mate. The joke is like, everyone was making straight banter jokes as well. Like they were all just picking out their favorite like Premier League cunts that always that like fucking Neymar level because that would always dive. It was like that. She acted like someone who with a sniper rifle took one of her eyes out.
I've never seen anything like it, mate. Like if she's that fragile, she shouldn't be, mate, anywhere near the balls. Like
literal clip should just have dubbed over it, fucking Jade up that guy. Like, my God, like,
hey, look, I'll show it.
It's outrageous. It's the overreaction is outrageous.
We'll have to cut this out of YouTube because we get copyrighted.
Put it this way: the overreaction was worthy of an MIBR player losing an online game.
But you just play it, Sam, while I'm talking it. But like, so it got reported, like even in the BBC. Like, I'll just read you this. Like, Djokovic has apologized for hitting a line judge with a ball at US Open, saying he's extremely sorry for creating such stress. The Serb, who had just had his serve broken, took a ball out of his pocket and hit it behind him, striking the woman in her throat. Like, at no point in any of the reporting around that situation was it made like clear that it was an accident. He weren't even looking when he hit the ball.
Oh, understand, unless you are part of the Biden Kamala fucking ticket, you are not ever getting like a fucking charitable reading of your actions in 2020. Like, that ain't happening for anyone.
I just couldn't believe it, mate. I couldn't believe what I was seeing because I was like, well, he's just accidentally clicked on it.
Yeah, of course.
Even he's laughing, like, to a certain degree. And then you just tell him, like, you're disqualified now.
And by the way, he was actually the favourite to win that tournament.
Yeah, he was favourite to win the tournament.
No, so the cool thing about that is, I don't know if you know this, but like, sadly, tennis is one of the stupid sports that, this is real, Richard. To this day, they still claim it's a sport of gentlemen. By the way, I don't agree with it, but I'd probably just check like the social temperature on saying that, because what would that allude to of like its history and where it comes from and like upper class? Like, probably haven't thought about the decolonialization aspect. I wouldn't say, again, I don't agree, but that's the madness of the world we live in. So what they tried to claim in the modern day, they've also done this previously, by the way, where if people wore clothes that were too jazzy, they were like, well, that's unbefitting of the sport. It's like, mate, it is just a fucking sport now. Like, it isn't like, remember, the whole thing is it used to be aristocrats or whatever playing each other.
Yeah.
I ain't it anymore. So like, could you just get with the time?
Fancy a game of dandy tennis?
Exactly.
Pims. Yeah. But no, that just blew me away. I mean, I'm looking at the chat now because it's viewer questions. And people are even saying, come on, that will have really hurt. Grow up.
Give me a break.
He didn't even hit it hard.
It's a literal
if he served it into a fucking dome, yeah.
And secondly, this is another detail people don't bring up. That's an area where tennis is mad behind. If you guys think it's bad that there wasn't even anything like VAR and you had all these like appalling ref decisions, in tennis, they don't even need those people anymore, Richard. They have computers and like lasers that could do that. Well, guess what? The laser doesn't fucking dive like Neymar and go, oh, bloody hell, and get people disqualified. Just go, all right, you've hit the laser, mate. Try not to do it again. So to me, it's the stupidest angle of all time. Like, what even is that fucking... And also, how can I live in a world where in tennis, you accidentally hit someone with a ball, you're disqualified instantly? Then in the UFC, right, in title fights, John Jones just always goes scoring like into people's eyes. And then those refs are just going, if you do it 2 more times, John, I'm going to have to do something about that. Like, he's only got 2 eyes, you mad cunt. What sort of rules are these?
Full fucking Captain Insane or straight to the fucking eye socket, like every fight. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But anyway, like, I just saw that and I was just like, that bitch was doing a job. The ball wouldn't even hit her in the fucking first place. And then, like, the way the media sort of just collared around, like, Djokovic.
Oh, pathetic, wasn't it?
Djokovic destroyed an elderly woman by slamming a ball into her throat. Grow the fuck up, mate.
I know.
So ridiculous. Anyway, next question. Watch Doge asks, who are the left behind or forgotten... I can't do that one. Well, no, sorry, that's the next question. I skipped ahead. I'm glad I did. Who are the left behind or forgotten talents that didn't quite make it from 1.6 Source and Global Offensive? Examples could be players such as Whitmer and Roker from NA.
Oh, he's trolling, mate. Oh, fuck this guy.
No. I mean, I think he's being serious as in they didn't make it in CSGO, but they were like hype talent. But in general,
all right, I see. Yeah, they weren't even in those games.
But I think he just means like in any.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in any game at any stage.
The good thing
who's the great failed talent? Like,
I mean, listen, from CSGO we had loads because everyone knows most of the CSGO players either didn't transfer or if they did, they just quit. Like one of the all-time what ifs for me is Trace. This guy was an unbelievable monster in 1.6. Like a Ziwu type character, just every game was good. And then the problem was he only played for like, I'm going to say like half a year in CSGO. And the worst thing is he played in the half a year where his style just didn't work. but his style is basically what like people like Elysian Magus do now. So it would actually be mad effective, but unfortunately, he just quit at the wrong time. So there's one. I know one of yours has got to be because he played in early CSGO. The guy everyone always tells me in sources the what if is that guy Once. The fucking Danish guy, right? Wasn't
yeah, I mean, like once was like a really like in kind of a very unique talent because he was somebody that like what made him a good player was his movement. He had like absolute mastery of the of movement to a degree that not a lot of players did. I think it was like he'd spent a lot of time in his youth, you know, on like the trick servers and surf servers, and like he just had a real good understanding of like how to bunny hop, how to strafe, and obviously in Source you could abuse acceleration even when Z-Block was there. So Once was somebody who, like, you know, if you ever needed a player to make, like, you know, a precise boost or a run jump or drop down on nuke and instantly reset their aim by side strafing and get a headshot, like, he was the guy who could do it. So, you know, he combined having, like, unbelievable aim with unbelievable movement. But, I don't know, he was just in that, like, he was just in that world where I think it wasn't serious enough for him. And think about it, early CSGO.
It wasn't a serious game, yeah.
It wasn't, was it? So he's one. I always, I mean, like you said, there's a ton for CSGO. Like,
what
just
would the other big Source ones be that come to mind?
Well, I mean, like, I don't even know if he tried, but he retired, I think, in 2012, and I wish he'd stuck around. PHP from Reason Gaming. He was a Czech player. What a
legendary, right?
Mate, this guy. No, but
isn't that the guy you said was like the best AWPer ever or something?
Mate, right. He weren't even an AWPer, but he was the best AWPer ever. That's the madness.
All right, then.
Like, no, like, legit, you don't understand. Like, so when Reason Gaming with the number one team in the world,
in a sense, if you know what I mean.
he was like one of the first ever hybrids. So, like, right, what happened was, like, so he was in a team. There was a guy called WT. Everyone thought he cheated. He was like a world-class AWPer.
I saw that guy's frag movies. I remember going, these guys just cheating Source. That WT, this is outrageous.
So WT ended up leaving Reason, and then people said, how the fuck are you ever going to replace him? PHP Marek said, oh, I've heard of this guy called Guardian. He dabbles with 1.6 and plays Source. I think he's going to be really good. So he essentially brought Guardian in. Guardian becomes like best AWPer in the world. Nobody thought WT could be replaced. Reason Gaming go on, become the number one team in the world. But then there was a period of time where Guardian had to drop out for health reasons or whatever. So PHP said, rather than get another AWPer, we'll bring in, I think it was a player called Bazzy, and Al AWP. And everyone went, what are you doing? You're one of the best riflers in the world. Are you fucking stupid? He went, no, I also think I'm one of the best AWPers in the world. That was like one of his famous quotes. He said that in an interview and everyone was like scoffing and laughing. Mate, he was banging motherfuckers like left, right, and center, like unbelievable, easily like a top AWPer. Also an in-game leader, right? And was a top fragger. Anyone who saw him play at Copenhagen Games in between 2010 and 2012, he would single-handedly smash opponents like 30 every like event. And on top of that, right, he was like a chess grandmaster and a black belt in karate. Like, this guy was insane. Like, there's never, and then he just retired. He just retired in 2012 and said it's time to like grow up, and you know, I don't think CSGO is going to make it. If that guy had fucking stuck around, everyone would be sucking him off right now, like as one of the all-time greats. Even if he'd only done it in the first 2 years of the game, he was insane.
I don't know if it counts, but like another classic one, even though he did play CSGO, everyone knows he never properly stuck to his old stars. Obviously, Markelov, like, mate, that guy was unbelievable at the end of 1.6. Gox is a classic one. I know he did like a brief comeback, but he did it like 5 years too late, 7 years too late. Like, you can't do a comeback then. You're never going to make it. So sadly, I know it sounds like we're harping on, but basically, it's not an exaggeration. If you did like a HLTV top 20, I know they did, but it was done by a random Serbian guy none of you fucking know. So I don't know why you treat it like God wrote it on with his fucking finger on his own tablets every time. Meanwhile, when I say something, someone you know has 20 years experience, you go, that's just your opinion. Could be biased. Like, whatever. I guess I'm not owned by someone who has fucking ownership group in Astralis, which would just totally fine, of course. So that's no big deal, right? So I guess I'm just biased. So basically, if you did a top 20 in the last years of 1.6 and CS Source, I'm not exaggerating, most of them aren't here. Like, there are maybe like, that's why people like Get Ryan Forrester, like aliens, or the very games guys, they made it like a lot. Like, people don't know. When people say, like, you know, Device played Source, like, Freiburg played. So yeah, they weren't like the fucking gods of the game, mate. They were just all right players, and that, or they were young. And they hadn't had a chance yet. So a lot of people don't know. As much as people say, like, CSGO is like the game closest to Source, it's actually amazing how many of the Source players didn't come over or make it.
And it was true in NA as well. Like, obviously, there were a bunch of NA players that once CGS died, you lost them forever. And, you know, like, what Fraud could have done potentially if CGS hadn't have died and he hadn't committed to Source. He was already established as a 1.6 player.
Yeah.
But, like, there's, like, a period of time in NA where, like, you basically went from being not only a salaried professional, but on the highest salaries in esports to being told you're an amateur now. Overnight. So that changed the motivation of lots of players. Like, you know, like Clown was a big name. He fucked off and went and opened a mechanic shop and tried to come back a little bit. But, like,
basically all most teammates and all of the people on, like, Steel and Adren's teams, right? Those were, like, the best teams at the time.
Yeah, like War Machine, obviously another one. You know, you had
not
like
the guy in the UFC who did all that stupid shit. Obviously different.
Yeah, Devour. You know, there was so many big names, and this is why no one ever believes me when I say it. But Moore was one of the best players in the world. He was.
By the way,
he was one of the best players in the world. Like.
People don't get this. Yeah, obviously I'll make fun of Moore now, and everyone thinks because he always does that thing where he always jokes, and people are so stupid to this day they buy into it. Like, you know, he thinks he's better than Hopper than one of the best. He doesn't. He just says that you're more. And have you ever seen wrestling? Like, he's just playing a character. But what you don't know is the reason he does that meme is because he was one of the best players. He actually was. In the CGS says he was a monster Hopper.
Yeah, like seriously, he was insanely good, and like also like, you know, big personality. He was like a franchise player. He was like, you know, he had everything you want. And then obviously, I know it's a name that's like UK release. He's one of
the ones I've got. He's one of the ones where even if you haven't followed Source, go watch his frag movies.
He was a player that unfortunately got caught in the squeeze because he developed as a talent at the end of Source, and obviously, like, I think he was in that Mouse Sports lineup, that one Copenhagen Games 2012, and then obviously they transitioned to CSGO. And unfortunately, like, they wanted just a modest salary, by the way. They weren't asking for anything crazy. You know, they wanted just like, I don't know, 400 quid a month or something, just to, like, you know, kick some money up to their parents or whatever. But no one was willing to spend that on him because CSGO, the future was so uncertain. It was like there was two salaried teams in the fucking world. One was Very Games and one was Nip. It was a fucking joke at the start. So, you know, unfortunately he quit, and he's a big what if because he was legit, man. Like, he was a phenom when he burst out in Source, and he could have been a phenom in Go, but he just wasn't.
Also worth pointing out, he also, as far as I know from people in the scene who've told me about him, one of the few UK players that was simultaneously really good and not a stupid cunt who kept trying to do all the stuff. Unfortunately, he insisted on playing with people like fucking rattlesnakes, so that's not going to help you. But yeah, that was rare. People don't get it. That's why you should be excited about, like, Alex's development, this Mezzi guy, because these guys, and Thomas, these guys aren't just coming out. They're not carrying that baggage. And everyone we saw in the UK for like 20 years almost had this stupid baggage where it was just cool to be a cunt to everyone.
Yeah, like Dan was a good lad, but like I say, unfortunately, like, he definitely led astray by, you know, he didn't because he didn't have the toxic attitude. Because initially everyone thought he was a cheater because he's a kid, he's got a number in his name. Right, like, this is the stupid rationale. So it took him ages to even get like a chance to play pickup games with the UK pros at the time, and even then they were all saying he was a cheater. You know, that was the standard thing. If you were a young UK player and you beat these guys, even in friendlies, you know, you must be cheating. So it took him ages, and then of course when it was like Rattlesnake and Critical, I think it was actually Luke Critical Green that discovered him and gave him his chance. Unfortunately, these were some of the guys that did imbue the worst attitudes.
Wankers, basically.
Yeah. So basically what happened there is, you know, Dan ended up sort of exuding that himself. But towards the end of his time, I think when he was on, I think it was Power Gaming, was one of his last major teams. And then along with the Mouse Sports, he was sick. He was straight up sick. He was one of the best players in Europe. And just a sad end, really, that he got caught in the squeeze between titles. Anyway, moving on. Rez Chi asks, if you were a transformer, what would you transform into?
I mean, I'm assuming he does mean like you pick like a traditional like vehicle, like one of them. You know, I'm assuming you're not going mental with this.
Remember, you know, listen, I consider Dinobots to be traditional. Their storyline happened in '87. Grimlock.
No, but like for example, I always thought there was some really weird shit with the one that like turned into a cassette and then went inside the one that was a cassette player. I always thought like, what? Even as a kid, I was like, that
Now
doesn't
you're
seem...
talking about Soundwave, Duncan. Show the proper respects. So yeah. Listen, I think up until Transformers the movie, where they had like even futuristic cars and stuff, I think it's all fair.
Here's
game.
the real problem. Maybe this is going to say something about my personality, Richard. I was one of the only kids who watched Transformers and got mad that the Decepticons didn't win. Because I loved fucking Megatron, Galvatron. I know. I thought, fuck all those little goody two shoes cunts in the Transformers. Like,
it's fair. But let's just be real. Like the Autobots did have some absolute pussios. Like
they were wankers, yeah,
full on pussios.
Listen, it's not like there was none of the Decepticons. Like obviously, Starscream is one of the biggest bitches of all time. Like, that's
sure. But at least he was an interesting bitch.
But
at least he was an interesting bitch.
So as a result, I want to say something a bit like Megatron, but I feel, Richard, like again, this is maybe the ultimate indictment of 2020.
No, yeah, you can't turn into one of them.
That you can't turn into a gun.
Yeah,
even though it's fictional and a cartoon, that's where we're at in 2020. You can't even imagine if you were in a cartoon that you would turn into a gun. Even though guns have all sorts of practical applications that don't involve doing horrific things. And by the way, here's a spoiler for everyone, and this is going to really bake your noodle if you like.
He's baking noodles, Sam.
Incredibly left wing.
Write it down.
If you were against guns, why do you want all the police and the government to have them? Like, I've always wondered that one, man. I've always thought that was like a real paradox for me. So I've never understood that. But yeah, I think something cool like a weapon or something, something sick.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me. Like I said, I think all the good things have been done. That's the problem. I mean, like, I don't even consider all this like late shit, like with the the one spark and like by the time the fucking movies come out, I'm tapped all the way the fuck out.
Like dinosaurs or whatever the fuck, which I never understood. Listen,
yeah, the Dinobots.
How could there be dinosaurs? Like,
there was a fucking Dinobot called Slag. Perfect.
I love America. Mate, that's like in Netherlands, right? For some reason, when I was looking at apartments, every apartment, right, has one of those Smeg fridges that has the word Smeg written in counter. And I just told people, listen, I know you guys won't get it, but I'll never have one of those fridges like that. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to put my food inside that fridge. It ain't happening.
No,
as a Red Dwarf fan, that ain't ever happened.
Yeah, Smeg is out of control. You can't.
It's so unreasonable, isn't it?
So yeah, I don't know really. I like it. I mean, I'm the same. I've got all my favorites, but unfortunately, I just can't think what transform into. I'll just say this: I'd transform into a version of myself that was capable of having abs. There you go. Right. Rekovic on Steam asks, and it's one of another. He's like my head mod on the Discord, so his questions aren't real questions; they're just banter. He said, "How come Astralis didn't get an Overwatch League team? Their scummy behaviour and poor management is a perfect fit for the Activision Blizzard system." So,
do you know the real irony? Probably don't have the money.
Yeah, probably thought about it. Yeah.
Probably
had that conversation. Thanks for the question, Carve. If you could bring back just one of the following, what would it be? One, the Luminosity SK gaming team from 2016 that went on to dominate the CSGO landscape with team play, tenacity, and had one of the best map win streaks of all time on DE Train before delusions of grandeur, ego, success, and laziness destroyed them. Or two, classic Iron Brew. He's done you at the end.
Yeah, no, he's done you at the end. It's a serious fucking question right until that point.
Yeah,
By the way, the answer's obviously
classic Iron Brew. Yeah.
Are you even kidding me? That's the other one was just a bunch of wankers playing Counter-Strike. I want. Listen, you know what? What's mad is, Richard, I've become the guy who seems like he's complaining about nonsense, but it's real. Like, I'll give you an example.
Is it though?
What, are you ready for something mad?
Yeah, I'm ready for something
mad. When I was looking at apartments, here's another thing, right? Sometimes I would ask them, like, what's the setup with the heat in here and stuff? And there were apartments where this is how mad politics has gone, Richard. There are apartments where they've put in central heating systems where you're not allowed to turn it over a certain degree. Even if you want to pay, you ain't allowed to. What? Like, so as a result, similarly, I don't know why it's some sort of mad political statement to be like, can I just have the full sugar Iron Brew? Yeah, but you know that like one guy could die by having too many. Like, yeah, but I'm not that guy though. I'm just gonna have a little sip of it, Lord. No, but it'd be bad for you to have the sugar. But I can still buy like cinnamon swirls and a double stacked fucking Domino's. But yeah, of course, yeah, of course, fucking yeah. You go. I can buy Kendall mint cake, which is just pure sugar, fucking like the crack cocaine of sugar. By the way, anyone who's never been to England, try it straight fire. I can do all that shit, right?
He means Kendall mint cake, not crack cocaine.
No,
I mean,
obviously.
If you've never tried it, straight fire. It's straight fire.
Never do that. What? Oh no, yeah, obviously, you know, like no. So they can do all that, but I can't just have 25 degrees on the fucking thermostat and an iron brew. Basically, the 90s is dead, is it?
Yeah, no,
I am one of those comedians who's like, you see the Fringe Festival, like, where's my material gone nowadays?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's bloody outrageous, mate. You must fucking right. Most people watch Peter Kay and think it's shit. You must watch it and cry and go, yeah, I do remember that.
I do remember garlic bread. By the way, if people don't know, before the internet, he was like the guy who culturally just ruined fucking catchphrases, wasn't he? Like, mate, when people were just saying that for no reason, just like garlic bread, it's like, stop saying it, please. No. I beg of you, please. This is Chinese.
There was something really wrong. Like, I don't miss 90s and early 90s comedy shows at all.
Too many catchphrases.
Yeah, I know, mate.
The worst ever was obviously Little Britain because that was the one where I was like, I'm out immediately.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
The first episodes, I was like, this is all right.
No.
And I was like, wait,
no.
It's not going to be the same thing, is it? Oh, you bet it is, mate. You bet it is. That David Williams has always been such a fucking smug, talentless wanker.
Oh, yeah. I love how he's getting wrecked as well now. Like, he's realised that, like, you know, that he's fallen into the cracks of being...
Did he go walk?
Well, no, the point is he's always obviously considered himself to be like, hey, I'm a liberal, I'm a lefty, right? Yeah, all of that stuff, you know. And he's held many, you know, popular positions. And
stuff, then what did he do? Make some sort of outrageous comment like maybe we shouldn't have roving death squads, just
look a Little Britain.
No, he made Little Britain and retroactively, obviously, mate, he's blacking himself up and doing all sorts of mad shit.
Yes, of course.
Like, and you know, the problem was.
I feel bad for the post-elector guy. I don't know. He must just be in hiding. Like, what?
Well, I mean, you say you feel bad for him, don't we? Me and Sam, we went back and we were like, no, it's just straight racist. It's 100% racist. There is no way.
Absolutely.
No, there's no way that should have ever been on TV. There's just no way. There's just no way. Anyway, point being, yeah,
fuck
whatever.
The 90s.
Yeah, it's gone. Anyway, J-Dubs. Ignoring country and any linguistic barriers, who would your 5-man roster be for the all-star CSGO partying team, as in players you would want to go out for on a night out, on a night out? Factors to consider can include role balance, consistent performers versus streaky talent, and players who can step up and take over a game.
By the way, he's actually saved the question because I was worried the angle was going to be that we're going to have to out who all the big party, which obviously, listen, we're not going to do that except for people like Nico because he fucked with me, so eat a dick. But if we're picking people, obviously you're going to pick people. You can do it for funny reasons, can't you? So like, I mean, listen, an obvious one would be KNG because I'd like him to just check if I'm sober, if I was the designated driver or whatever. You see where I was going with that one, you know. Also, you know.
Or check if you're having sex with your boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just check how things are going in my relationship. That's still to this day is one of the most ridiculous memes I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's bonkers, isn't it? Like, it's bonkers. Like, it's so bonkers, man. But anyway, yeah, no, I mean, like, so straight up, like, I don't even know if I'm in line with the spirit of the question, but like, regardless, shocks. Just regardless, whatever the question is,
reasons,
100%, mate. He's the he's the top lad.
Just an unbelievably consistent performer. Yeah, like you said, like as we've said on this show, they literally had a drink. I was once partying with the LDL/Envy guys, and I go, come on, lads, you won the tournament. We've got to go hard tonight. And they were like, yeah, let's get the Shoxy Red Bulls in. I think we told this story, but might not know. And I was like,
Shoxy Red Bulls.
And I was like, what's a Shoxy Red Bull? And obviously, if you actually drink a vodka Red Bull, you want it to be like vodka and the Red Bull, and the Shoxy Red Bull inverted those things. And so if he was starting the night
You're being too kind, Dad.
If he was starting the night off with that much vodka, like a little fucking drip of Red Bull, like where was the night ending, mate?
A Shoxy Red Bull was alcohol poisoning in a glass.
Oh, you would drink it and be like, fucking...
No, yeah, it was about, you know, like probably quarter of a bottle of vodka with the merest hint of Red Bull laid on the top to trick you into thinking this might not just be neat vodka. Like, absolutely insane. So definitely shocks. More on off.
Listen, this
I'll
is
have him.
when I say it's borderline, don't get worried. It's not like the last episode. It's only borderline in a funny way. But it's just borderline because, like, again, just because you're friends with people, you've got to be careful.
Yeah, true.
Proceeding to go fully through that warning sign. Obviously, Santa Kiss. Kids say the funniest things.
Mate, Santa Kiss. No, but I said this before. I have an admiration.
Oh no, that story is amazing.
I have an admiration for anyone that can get fucking ruined and just turn up to work the next day and do a day's graft. Like,
and also, nothing will ever make me laugh more than remembering that thing of like smooth.
yeah, no, so the thing is with Matt, like, honest to God, like Joe Miller had the same gift, you know. And, it just goes back to my days on building sites and stuff. You know, if you went out with the lads the night before and you were fucking minging the next day hungover, and you just be doing your grafts, sweating, you know, carrying bricks, whatever. But you know, people just used to go like, oh, 1 second, like projectile vomit and go fucking better out than in. Just carry on like grafting, you know. I love people who can just do stuff like that because it was that like attitude. Now, really, of course, the sensible thing to say, and especially because we're on Twitch, if you do exhibit symptoms of alcohol poisoning, take on board plenty of fluids, maybe see a doctor, you know, get some Lucozade, get some Diarrhea, get some counselling, maybe even look at whether or not binge drinking is happening because of, you know, inappropriate psychological triggers and stuff like that. But when I grew up, basically,
hence why you respect him for doing it.
Yeah, but basically, if you threw up, you were a fucking pussy. Like, literally, I've had family members say to me, "Hey, what's a fucking? Why have you thrown up? Why have you been sick? Like, there's a fucking point to that, you daft cunt. If you're gonna throw up, what have you drank it for? Like, as if you have any like say in the whole process. Like, yeah. So obviously, like people who could turn up and do a day's graft, like, and just be hungover and work. Mad respect for them. And Joe Miller could do it all the time. Like, you'd see Joe Miller like 5 minutes before a show, like, just fucking shirt buttons done in the wrong one up with his collar all up here and fucking hair over his eyes and just looking absolutely booze coming off him or whatever. Like, and he'd just go bang, right, showtime, and he'd just fucking nail it. And Matt had the same gift, and I call it a gift. Because seriously, like when if you've got that autopilot, generally that will keep you out of trouble. Now in Matt's case, there was that one time he didn't.
The one bloody time.
Yeah, the one time.
And they never let you forget it, Richard. They never let you.
Yeah. You fuck one sheep.
The sad thing is that should show how fair we are on this show. Because listen, if I think about that purely on a human level, it's tragic for everyone. I hope none of the people watching that. I'm sad that they had to experience that. I'm sad that people in gaming might think that promotes like racism or something.
Hatred, yeah. Obviously, that's terrible.
If I think about it only from the premise of like mates, it is funny. I can't lie.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if it had been anything else, you know. But anyway, so I don't even know how close we are answering the question. I've said shocks. I've said more. You've said KNG. We need two more.
Let me think. I mean, obviously, the joke is we wouldn't pick Nico because we'd be picking up the whole fucking tab, wouldn't we? So definitely keep Nico as far away from us as possible. Let me think. Who else would be a good one? Actually, you know what? So I've referenced this in the past. I've said this in the past. Like, I know it doesn't seem like it, and he'll always lie on streams and pretend he hates me and he'd never give me the time of day. By the way, Richard, I'll give you someone who actually does meet the criteria of rent-free, because you know there's almost no one in the entire world, despite it being applied to everyone in the most liberal and inapplicable fashion. One person who fits the criteria of rent-free is fucking Cold Zera. Cold Zera has referenced maybe 3 times on camera that he doesn't follow me on Twitter or had me blocked. I've never ever brought up Cold Zera's Twitter or whether he has me blocked or whatever. Like, mate, you're just obsessed. Like, Get over it. Like, when you block someone, move on. The idea of blocking them is they're not in your life anymore. But what I will say is, generally, the MIBR guys could actually be pretty cool to have a beer with. They were good to chat with. So, believe it or not, Fallen's a pretty cool guy. Sure, he can handle a few. Probably has good banter still. He's a guy, basically, who, unlike some pros, as I've mentioned, Nico, you fucking bread-headed cunt. Let's not get that bread. Like, you just say, let's get that bread when you go to a fucking barbershop, you daft cunt. And then probably don't even pay your fucking bill or anything, do you? Make some old guy pick up the bill. It's like, yeah, you're picking that up since you work for the bread manufacturers or some mad angle like that. Like, basically, someone like Fallen would be cool. Obvious example.
Yeah. I'll tell you another good shout for this. Rugger, obviously recently banned as a coach.
Not for that reason, obviously. Yeah.
No, not for being a. But let me tell you, drink.
Danes can hold their fucking booze, mate.
Oh, I didn't even just that though. Casper's a fucking absolute riot and a half, mate. He's so fucking funny, like big drinker, like mischievous motherfucker, like. But yeah, also got that like can hold his booze. You know, like me and him, many a tear up in the day. Shit we can't talk about. Shit we.
All right, I've got a funny one.
Shit we have to take to the grave.
I've got a funny one for you because it's not going to violate any confidence to say this, but you'll just enjoy, in light of what a cunt he's been recently, what a hilarious anecdote this is. Believe it or not, Starix is quite an interesting guy, right? Because famously, when they were in Navi, like if everyone remembers, based on the interviews, the most fluent one in English was Senya. Now I know if people have heard him recently, they'll be like, "He had a bit of an accent." Yeah, but back then none of them could speak English almost, right? Yeah. Markelov would just try, and he's one of those guys who's just going to permanently have the fucked up accent, but tries to speak, right? And the others generally would just stay silent. Like famously, Edward never said anything. Zeus never said. To this day, Zeus has never said anything in English to me. Never said anything, right? But of all the people, the interesting one was Starix, because Starix would always be this like quiet, stoic figure when he was sober. But when he had even like 2 beers, he's the guy where, and I don't mind this as long as you're not being annoying. Like I said, I don't like it when like Dennis used to come up and argue with me. But what he liked to do when he had a few beers was talk, but like really seriously, like in depth, like a fucking podcast level about like the meta of the game and how it's evolving. So it'd be fascinating. Like you'd actually be going, fucking hell, you're fully fluent. Like, you know, the concept, he'd be discussing how great teams in history played and how they modeled their squads. But this is the part of the anecdote that is fucking ridiculous. That's why I'm bringing it up. Because if you saw him the next day and you said to him, "Do you want to do an interview?" Do you know what he'd actually say to your face?
Go on.
No English. I know English.
Oh my God.
For real.
As if he's styling that out.
Mate, after he's just had like a 3-hour conversation with you the night before, it's like, no, I know English. Like, what even is this? I was there. You can't just gaslight me, Starix. You were there and I was there.
Right, so there you go. There's your 5. Elon, who do you think's going to win Flashpoint Season 2? And who is your dark horse for it?
Right, I will say the 3 invites haven't been announced yet, but I'll give you a spoiler.
It's Astralis.
A couple of them are in the top 10. All 3 are top-ranked teams, so the invites have a chance to win. Cloud9's obviously interesting. Yeah, there's actually some legit teams at this one. That's why I hope people like MAIBR just get straight banged out. MV just get banged out instantly.
Right. So a couple of days ago, I did an interview with Henry.
I know he keeps promising he's going to win, doesn't he?
Yeah.
By the way, I like the confidence.
Yeah. So I'll do him a favor and put him down as a dark horse. I mean, there's so many things up in the air around it because, like you said, there's still teams to be announced, and there's still.
I feel like that might have been a trick to try and get me to accidentally slip and reveal one of the teams or something like, oh, of course that team, and then shit.
Well, it's like, right, Gen G need to add some players.
They need to add a couple of players.
Contact have to add some players. Mad Lions just did their lineup, which we'll talk about next episode.
So
but it's not great. Virtus Pro kind of had a little comeback.
Yeah.
To qualify. Then, yeah. And then you got Forza, who people sleep on Forza all the time.
All right.
They're a team that, like, you know, have upsets all the time. And then, of course, MIBR, like, you know, going to be amazing. And then obviously the Dignitas retirement home made some changes. Interested to see how that pans out with they've got that, what is it, that Har and Heap or whatever the fuck.
Oh, by the way, that just because it'll be a funny moment and anything that's comedy we should work into this show. I saw that moment as well. Did you see that on Twitter where some little pissant guy who I don't think was even like a famous journalist had made a post that was saying like, report maybe these players will join on trial or something with Dignitas, and then DK reported like these players are signing with Dignitas, and he was like, bloody look what regarded this story. It's like, no, you just by saying their name, you don't have like eternal rights over the story, dickhead. Like you reported a different story. Like get in your fucking lane, mate. It's like I'm sick of people doing that. Like why do people do that shit? Like I called it. Like you didn't. You incorrectly reported it, or you reported an earlier version of the story. Like it's stupid as fuck to do that.
Next question. Can Banelaw this is from Echo. I don't know why he's calling you Banelaw.
I know.
He obviously
Everyone
knows
should
you call
start doing that from now on.
Yeah. No, he'll force him to change.
Nobody can do I had a shit microphone.
I'll just go to Jerky's Minion, get 10 grand and call it, mate. I'll become Banelaw.
Can Banelaw sing the Milky Bar Kid song?
I mean, I certainly could. I'm not going to do it. I'm not. What am I, a fucking performing monkey? I don't know it all. What? I know. I don't. Isn't there
The
two
Milky
as well? I
Bar
feel
Kid
like
is
it's
strong and tough. that
Yeah.
one.
Isn't there a
Ronnie
different
Dirty.
one though? I think the one in my age is different. I'm sure they changed the song.
My age.
Like my generation's Milky Bar Kid is different. I think.
Well, anyway, the answer is yes. Gaming Paul DK. This is the last question. What has been the best music act ever to perform at an esport event you attended? I know this one straight off because the standard is so low.
Oh, it is. It's appalling, by the way.
I mean, don't
like
be
I
wrong.
was at that one. I was at the ESL New York where that Cruella DJs played it. Like,
Oh, that was bad.
Fuck out my face. That was actually
Yeah,
outrageous. The
that
sad
was
thing
outrageous,
is,
yeah.
obviously the sleeper that would have been true, but it never happened, was when there was that rumor that Metallica was going to play at the E-League Major. That would have been fucking straight fire. Could you imagine?
Didn't we start that room?
Listen, we started it in the hopes that it would come true. But
Right, yeah, okay.
it didn't happen, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Believe it or not,
right, all
I
right.
didn't get back to Lars.
Just want to
Ulrich
make
before.
absolutely certain that I'm not misremembering history.
Lars, if you finish suing all those grandmas that downloaded one MP3 accidentally from LimeWire, it's blowing up on Global Offensive subreddit that they want you to play the E-League Major. It's like, no, maybe not, you know.
Well, for me, it was very obviously when they had Darude play Sandstorm at which DreamHack was it? Was it 2014?
I'd say maybe 2013.
Yeah, 2014. Yeah. So like, because it was such a fucking meme, and obviously people did get into it and stuff. Probably that.
2013, I nailed it.
Yeah, there you go. Well done, mate. 2013. So
Never fuck with me when it comes to a DreamHack. I remember everything that happens at DreamHack. I've been thinking about doing a video about just all the outrageous shit DreamHack. Because obviously, like, they're one of the ones where I won't say we swept it under the rug, but we gave them very charitable fucking chances in this industry, and the amount of fucking bullshit they pulled. I know.
All of those cunts, by the way, from that crowd. They all betrayed me.
They all sellouts as well.
Grey Khan, Adebisi, that Hayoka guy. Like, the knives in my back from those cunts. Unreal.
Also, people don't know the reason why the Sandstorm. Am I remembering the story correctly? Obviously, it was a half meme that he was going to play it, right? And if you know DreamHack, half the time people are walking around just eating the shittest kebab of all time, watching them. Oh, look at the guy down there playing, and all this music. And apparently, didn't he do something like just wait the whole set, not playing Sandstorm, playing other shit? And obviously, listen, they only did 2 chart hits. One was Sandstorm, and one was just like Sandstorm remixed. So obviously, people were.
I think it was even called like Sandstorm.
People were just there like, when Sandstorm next, and then he just like tried to tease it out till the end, like, you ready? Like, give me a break. Is there anyone better has ever played one?
Well, if you count BlizzCons,
there you go. I guess like
Foo Fighters did BlizzCon. I don't probably some big bands.
I weren't there though, so I can't say. I weren't there. Anyway, there you go. That's the show. That's your lot. All right, so all that remains to be said is shout out to our sponsors, of course, .com/RLS. You should have an account by now. If you don't, get one. Place bets, be 18 plus, bet responsibly. Obviously, NordVPN. If you need a VPN, I don't even think it's optional. Now, NordVPN's a good VPN. That's why I'm partnering with them. So if you do need a VPN, you don't want to support weebs or K-pop fans or whatever promotional shit Twitch is doing this month, go to nordvpn.com/RLS. Sign up. It's cheaper than a Twitch sub, and you get a VPN. What more do you want? 70% off it is, because I'm the best. And obviously, shout out to all of our patrons, including the ones asking ridiculous fucking questions. Our $100 patrons, Jerky's Minion, Kashanath, Sean Gares. Notice he's never asked a question. Good on him. He's Valorant now anyway. He's gone. Just remember the times we had. Sean Gares, Flacksmith, Alice the Alchemist, Marcus Kiumpar, Detlef Insomniac, our $50 patrons, J Dubs, Quasar Fox, Tobias Bernasconi, Butt Pounder 420, Watch Doge, Reykjavik on Steam, Carve, Zinged, Benakagi, Sard Sawar, Sigo, Smart as Superman, Gaming Paul DK, Elon, Daniel Magnuson, Echo, Rez Chi, Miss Alcoholic, and Cathal. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another episode of By the Numbers. And until then, take care of yourselves.